is, I think, the fourth time. I'm lucky, so let's see if we're actually live this time. Okay, so I'm joined on the stream with two of my favorite internet personalities. Apostate Prophet, you'll know him from Mohammed Hijab fame as part of his fame, but he's got a major YouTube channel, and he has clashed with Mohammed Hijab a number of times in the past, which we'll probably get into on the stream. And we're going to be commenting on Mohammed Hijab versus Piers Morgan. I'm also joined with one of my favorite Jews in the world, Adin, from Twitter. You should definitely follow both of them on Twitter and AP on YouTube. So what we're going to do today, I'll give both guests a very 2 minutes just to introduce themselves, more than I have, as I check all the settings to make sure we're actually live this time. So AP, do you want to very briefly give us a little introduction as to who you are for anyone in my audience that hasn't heard of you?
Yes. Well, first off, thank you for having me, and Shana Tova as well. That's the only thing that I've learned so far. So I am Apostate Prophet, former Muslim and YouTuber. Have been focusing most of my time on analyzing and critiquing Islam and the Quran and Islamic practices. And since last year, since October 7th, have been very, very much intensively focused on the Israel issue and the conflict, and been defending Israel and all that. And yeah.
Okay. Shana Tova. I am Adin Haikin. I'm Israeli native. I was just served in the IDF for 3 years, including reservist, and now basically I'm active mainly on Twitter, but on X, also a little bit on Instagram. But yeah, mainly I'm focused on mainly understanding the history of Zionism and how it evolved over time, and based in some, and also refuting for fun as a hobby some anti-Zionist talking point. Yeah,
Cool.
and it's my pleasure to be here. My pleasure to be among you two giants who have far more experience online than me.
Although with the mistakes I've been starting this stream, you wouldn't think I've had much experience online. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, we're going to respond live to the Mohammed Hijab versus Alan Dershowitz versus Piers Morgan debate that happened on Piers Uncensored last night. I wanted to get AP's response straight away, but he was already booked. And so I think this is actually a second time responding live to the Piers Morgan debate. So apologies, AP, for having to go over twice. But we'll be expecting your inputs to be far more profound because you've already done the research and the revision.
Well, honestly, I was live yesterday with David. We reviewed it together. But I guess I was not in the best mood. I was already really exhausted during the day, and then listening to Mohammed Hijab being a complete jerk to Alan Dershowitz and to the public and to Piers and all that just really made me even more exhausted. And I kept most of the things that I wanted to say to myself. And I thought, I hope this is over very, very soon. I think I'm in a better mood now and have more energy now to review this in a better way. So. Good.
Sorry, David, we got AP on this better form today, so it worked out. It worked out for the best. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is, I've not used this software before for streaming on YouTube. It's Riverside. I'm going to now share my screen, and hopefully we'll be able to watch the debate on YouTube. So this should work. I did do a very quick demo run, so let me know. First and foremost, I'll just make sure I'm not.
The events of the past year have shattered stability in the Middle East. Israel's war on Hamas, provoked by the atrocities of October the 7th, have led to the deaths of tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians. Prime Minister Netanyahu promised total victory and the complete destruction of Hamas. But 1 year on, Hamas is still firing rockets at Tel Aviv. 1 year on, 97 hostages remain in Hamas captivity. Very clearly, Israel's not fulfilled its stated aims in this war, and they continue to add new ones. It's now at war in Lebanon and on the precipice of a direct conflict with Iran. It has no plausible exit strategy in Gaza, where millions live in grief and under occupation. But it has, without question, decimated Iran's client militias. Hezbollah, the jewel in Iran's crown, has been decapitated. The question is whether that makes the Middle East and the world a safer or a more dangerous place. Can it really be said that Israel is winning this war? How big will this war get? And how much collateral damage and suffering can the world tolerate before enough is enough?
I think what I'd like to jump in and just say, first and foremost, well, with Piers Morgan, I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I feel like he's just exploiting the war. He brings on anti-Semite after anti-Semite, controversial figure after controversial figure, and plays them off against each other, the Israelis versus the Palestinians, the Jews versus the Muslims. And then the very next day, he's on YouTube, on Twitter, boasting about his ratings. Best ratings we ever had. 20 million people watched the show. It's like you're exploiting dead Israelis and dead Palestinians for social media clout. I don't know if anyone else has taken on Piers as a comparator, but this is how I see the man.
It's true. He has been very much on the side of exploiting it for views. He prefers to have more controversial people who will just mess things up instead of having actual analysts talk about it more seriously. And then he acts surprised when it turns into a complete mess. Like he had Mohammed Hijab on twice before, and he saw both times what kind of a person, what kind of a figure this is. Why would he invite him again and put him against Alan Dershowitz? It just makes very little sense.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually made a video responding from I've got a member section where I put the occasional video on just for those that help fund what we do. And I responded to Loki this week, and I think I just uploaded it today. And he's just there to provide controversy. He's completely ill prepared for the conversation. So every time Loki pushes some false talking point, Piers isn't capable of pushing back because he doesn't have the knowledge. And it's just a platform for extremists and anti-Semites to push dangerous tropes which spread disinformation.
Yeah, he also doesn't understand the conflict. He doesn't understand geopolitics. He doesn't understand, after many times of listening to some people who actually try to explain things in a proper way, he doesn't understand certain urban warfare, ideas that he talks about. He brings up proportionality every time and gets it wrong every single time. He still thinks it's all about how many people have you killed versus how many people have we killed. This is actually the first time, I think, this episode where Alan Dershowitz actually clarifies what proportionality means. So I hope he will get it right from now on. I doubt it, though.
Yeah, I haven't watched it. Sorry.
It just is his job. His job is to get as much views and clout as possible. It doesn't seem it's not in his interest to understand the conflict and have an actual analyst about it.
Sure. So I'll continue the video. Hopefully this works.
This debate will examine the legality, the morality, and the sustainability of the conflicts in the Middle East. Joining me are two of our most passionate advocates for their cause: the Muslim philosopher, scholar, and YouTuber Mohammed Hijab, and the lawyer and author Alan Dershowitz. Well, welcome to both of you.
Sorry, I just have to say something. Like, I've debated Mohammed Hijab many times. He's a big guy. And yet somehow he's managed to find the only suit in the world that's too big for him. The suit is massive.
He looked like Bar Mitzvah suit.
But I love that he's introduced as a scholar as well. It's,
the thing is, the first time that he had Mohammed Hijab on, he just invited him as controversial figure. And then Mohammed Hijab's response was, why did you call me controversial figure? Why did you not introduce me as Oxford student?
But you know, the best thing, he's actually not an Oxford. Like is it his father has been selling fake courses from Oxford? Is that? Have you seen that?
Cambridge, actually. Yeah,
Cambridge.
I saw that. Yeah. It's
Uh,
really weird. The first thing that I think when I see this is, what a match. Alan Dershowitz and Mohammed Hijab. It's like you have one guy who is world famous for having a successful career in things that actually matter. On the other hand, you have Mohammed Hijab.
a Harvard law professor who's advised governments and the Middle East towards the two-state solution, and then Mohammed Hijab, who insults me and you on a regular basis in the faces in a park.
Wrote dozens of books and documents, and documents every important legal case in the last half century, and Muhammad Hijab.
The scholar, the Oxford scholar. Let's continue.
Scholar and the philosopher. The philosopher.
Mohammed, you've been on twice before, Alan many times. What I'd like this to be is a civilized debate between two people with very strong opinions about this, obviously very different opinions, where we try and reach potentially some points of agreement. Because so often with these debates, that seems almost impossible. Descends into a shouting match, everyone gets ad hominem, everyone digs ever deeper into their trench, their tribe, and we don't get anything constructive out of it. I think you guys are smart enough to potentially, through spirited and passionate debate, agree about some stuff. And that is surely the first basis for how any of this eventually gets resolved. So let's hope for the best. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best, as they say. Alan Dershowitz, let me start with you. Israel, it seems to me, in the last 3 weeks, have massively ramped up their military offensive in a way that says to me that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his cabinet sense an opportunity to completely, in their eyes, sort out the Middle East problem once and for all, with Iran at the center of that problem. Is that how you see this?
Yes, I do. I see Iran as the head of the octopus, sending out its tentacles through the Houthis, through Hamas, through Hezbollah. The tragedy, as we celebrate's a bad word, commemorate October 7th, is that if Sinwar and Hamas had the opportunity to do it again, knowing everything that followed, knowing all the deaths and disasters in Gaza and in Lebanon, I think Hamas would do it again, would do October 7th again, because they think they've won. They've turned college and university students against Israel. They have solidified the United Nations opposition to Israel. They've divided Americans, particularly the Republican administrations in the past, from the current Democratic administration. So Hamas cannot be allowed to have a victory on growing out of October 7th any more than ISIS should have been allowed to have a victory going out of 9/11. So I think the answer is yes, a military defeat for Iran and its surrogates, and a peace process between Israel and Saudi Arabia with steps taken toward the recognition of a two-state solution, which is the...
You're muted.
One of the things I find interesting about Dershowitz is he's still stuck in the Oslo paradigm. It's just two-state solution, two-state solution, two-state solution. And I think October 7th changed that. I don't think anyone, or very few people in Israel, and certainly very few Palestinians, are pushing for a two-state solution. But that will be music to Piers' ears, I'm sure, because I know it's a solution that Piers backs fully.
That is true. He and many others still think that that a two-state solution is an actual possible viable option. It just isn't. It doesn't work. Working toward it doesn't work. I mean, Israel has tried for ever now to reach such a solution. In the past, different governments have tried forever to make compromises and to say, okay, it's dangerous and all that, but we have to do something about it. We have to make peace. Offered two-state solutions so many times, it just doesn't work. No matter what you offer, the other side doesn't want to accept it, because that's not their end goal. If you ask the people, if you ask the populations, unfortunately, this is the fact. This is the truth. according to surveys, the majority of those in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, and those in Gaza say that a two-state solution would not be enough. It would be only the first step. Ultimately, they would want to get the entire land.
I mean, yeah, I know that Mohammed Hijab tried to use on X, tried to bring up the Arab Peace Initiative from 2002, and yeah, he claimed, it was accepted by everyone but Israel, but he ignored that Hamas explicitly rejected it, and not only that, it also basically demand from Israel to retreat from territories like the Golan Heights, although Syria didn't accept the Arab initiative. So it's basically just the best that they could do is basically just take it or leave it demand, basically. Either you take it or leave it without any debates or any guarantees.
Yep.
Jump back into it.
The only reasonable solution that will solve the problem. But remember that October 7th was stimulated by the desire to prevent Israel and Saudi Arabia from creating a peace process following up from the Abraham Accords. And unless that peace process continues, and unless Hamas is told, no, you failed, the world will not reward you for this, we're just going to see a continuation of the bloodshed in the Middle East, which does not serve the interests of the Palestinians nor the Israeli people.
Okay, Mohammed Hijab, your response to that?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that
Let's
wherever we
pause-
see
pause for a second,
suffering,
pause for a
wherever we see
It's very predictable, but you have just seen Alan Dershowitz actually address the point and give an interesting monologue with some accuracies, some things that we agree with, some things that we consider still a little bit old and nowadays a little bit out of touch. However, it's entirely on topic. Everybody knows. You could already see it in Mohammed Hijab's face as Alan Dershowitz was talking. He paid no attention to the topic, and the first thing that he's going to do is to derail the conversation.
And Jeffrey Epstein. You're going to say, but Jeffrey Epstein, this is what you're going to say.
Yeah.
death and destruction, especially of young people, assault, sexual assault, we see Dershowitz to the rescue, the former defense attorney of Jeffrey Epstein, a man himself accused
I
of
knew
rape.
we would get.
You called it.
I mean, I'm trying to understand from his worldview what Jeffrey Epstein did wrong from Mohammed Hijab worldview.
Nothing.
Because he just didn't do it according to the Islamic marriage law. This is it, like what?
He shouldn't be having a problem
Didn't say
with
the
Jeffrey
Shahada
Epstein.
were doing it, like.
Yeah, he shouldn't have a problem with Jeffrey Epstein going after younger girls. All he should be having a problem is that Jeffrey Epstein didn't do proper
14
marriage.
is considered pretty adult in their standard. Like,
Yeah.
14 is way beyond what the minimum that they debated on.
I think I can probably pull up a stream of a video of Hijab arguing that as long as a child has hips that are large enough, then she's fair game.
Pull it up.
I seem to recall him saying that to Sneeko. And I think that was the conversation that convinced Sneeko to convert to Islam.
So an opportunity.
He converted before that, but that might have solidified his idea. Oh, okay. Islam seems to make sense.
Always
Get to that. I knew.
Sorry.
I didn't give you permission to interrupt
Piers,
me. I didn't give you permission to interrupt me. I stayed quiet when you were talking.
Now we're
but
seeing
okay,
the
here's what
rule
I would
being
say.
I stayed
broken
quiet when
Okay,
you were
hang on,
talking.
hang on. Here's what I would
Let's stick
say.
to the merits.
I didn't
and
give you
not get
permission
to who
for
I
it.
defended in the
Listen,
past.
Mohammed, attacking a lawyer
Yes.
for defending people is a stupid argument.
Well,
Right,
I'm not making an argument yet.
Well, you're just using an ad
I'm not making an
hominem
argument.
attack straight off the top.
Has he got leverage on you? Is that
No,
why
he's a
you saw
brilliant
your
lawyer.
picture with Maxwell. He's got leverage on you.
He's a brilliant lawyer.
Are you saying that because he's got leverage
I
on you?
met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes at a book launch.
You look very happy with her.
Well, I didn't know anything about her at the
You look
time,
very
other
happy
than she
with
was
her.
the daughter of the man that
We're
owned-
talking about the
daughter
biggest
of the
sex.
This is insane. And I also love the fact that Mohammed Hijab, who's been photographed with multiple terrorists, one of his cameramen that used to film him in Speaker's Corner was arrested and jailed for promoting ISIS in the UK.
Wow.
And that was Hijab's cameraman, one of the double cameramans who filmed him on a regular basis. And he's firing shots at Piers Morgan for being at a book launch.
This is the problem with Piers Morgan. I mean, at this point, he should understand how to run his own show, but he not only invites this guy who he knows will entirely derail the conversation, he also allows Mohammed Hijab to derail it, and he falls for it and immediately starts arguing about it and defending himself about allegations that Mohammed Hijab makes. A proper host would probably at this point shut him down or tell him that if he continues with this, he will have to be removed.
I mean, I've debated Hijab many times in the park, and he tends to use his size to try and intimidate and dominate people. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a degree of this. I mean, you can look, he's trying to bully Piers on his own show. The guy is a thug. Islam, I don't think he wouldn't be well suited to Christianity or Judaism with his personality. He's quite the aggressive, quite an aggressive temperament.
Yeah, you don't want to say it, but I'll say it. It's just a very Islamic attitude.
I mean,
Scandal in the last 100
who I
years.
never met Jeffrey Epstein or ever knew him. Alan Dershowitz was wrongly accused of various things in relation to Jeffrey
How do
Epstein.
you know it's wrongly?
Because they've all been.
Why are you defending him?
They all turned out to be nonsense. He won a court case
Why are you
about
not
it.
looking at me when I'm speaking to you?
Well, well, I can turn to you, but
Yeah.
there are three of us involved in this.
Yeah, you're speaking to me, so
Okay, let me make things clear.
Yeah.
I never met Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
I met Ghislaine Maxwell for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you look very happy in that picture.
Okay, if you want to use that as an ad hominem
No,
attack
but why
on me,
are you defending him?
Hang on, a
Why are you
picture
defending
taken
him?
in 2013.
When you've got nothing to say about Israel-Palestine, go for the ad hominem. It's literally, the guy's got nothing. Like, every debate he comes, his facts are all completely incorrect, and he's just. I mean, AP, you've seen it. Did they even touch on Israel-Palestine, or is it just Jeffrey Epstein for however many minutes this is going to be?
Jeffrey Epstein.
I saw it. They
It was
touch
going
on
to be
it
Jeffrey Epstein.
several times, but every single time Mohammed Hijab derails it after they have like a little bit of a back and forth. This is also what made me really exhausted about it. He spends most of his time attacking and misrepresenting Alan Dershowitz and others. They do spend some time talking about Iran's attack, proportionality, and things like that.
Spoke for 3 minutes. I spoke for 20 seconds.
I'm defending him because your first attack on him is to attack him as a lawyer because he defends bad people.
That's fine.
Here's a little secret for you, Mohammed.
All
lawyers do that.
No, but hold on. We're not talking about bad people. We're talking about, excuse me. You've had enough. You've had enough speaking. I'm talking about a person who, after the fact, said that he was proud to defend him after the allegations come out. You still wanted to? Do you condemn Dershowitz
for what?
For defending Epstein.
I have defended,
and being proud of defending Epstein.
Some of the best,
it's not for me to
I
defend
have
him.
defended some of the best people in the world.
Okay, Alan, you defend yourself.
This is rich coming from the guy who refuses to condemn Hamas. it's interesting he chose the condemning angle.
He actually vaguely condemns Hamas in a little bit when Piers Morgan asks him, but then lies about it. But here's the thing. I said this yesterday as well. But some people. So he tries to mainly appeal to the Muslim population and to people who are not familiar with, with a proper system of law, with the judicial system and all that. But he tries to attack Alan Dershowitz for being the lawyer of Jeffrey Epstein, as if that somehow turns Alan Dershowitz into a bad person. Here is what people like Mohammed Hijab don't understand, or I would say he probably does understand it, but he deliberately attacks him on this because he knows that his audience will not understand it. A lawyer is meant to defend people, whether they are good or bad. A lawyer chooses his job in order to defend criminals and non-criminals and make sure that they get that they get a proper, fair treatment under the law. A good lawyer can be hired by serial killers to defend them and to advocate for them. The point there would be to present them accurately and protect their rights in front of the law. That doesn't mean that they agree with the person. It just means that they are lawyers, that they are doing their jobs.
I mean, Adolf Eichmann got a lawyer in Israel.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
this is how basic due process work. Like,
Exactly.
2 minutes, guys. I'm having technical issues. I'm going to rejoin.
I saw.
yeah.
Nice. If you say that a lawyer is bad because he represented somebody who's a really, really bad guy and he was proud of doing it, you are basically saying that that people who are accused of certain crimes, shouldn't have lawyers. That people who are accused of certain
Basically
crimes
guilty,
should just be guilty
basically
without.
guilty
Yeah.
until proven.
Yeah. They should be
Yeah.
guilty
Just be
as soon as you accuse them, and then you should put them away or execute them or whatever
Yeah,
it
and
is.
then it's going to relate to a late point when he claimed that they are Palestinian hostages because we don't face charges, or because we don't face a trial, so therefore they are hostages. I mean,
That's actually funny. He's contradicting himself there.
yeah. I mean, if he didn't represent, according to his logic, if Jeffrey Epstein didn't have a lawyer, he will be considered hostage.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies about that. I'll start the video again now.
To defend himself. I haven't even
defend
spoken
himself.
for 20 seconds.
Alan can defend himself.
But let me speak for more
I
than
helped
20
to
seconds. I
defend
haven't even made
Nelson
my point yet.
Mandela. I helped to defend
It's a
Bill
2-on-1 now, is
Clinton.
it?
I've helped to defend some of the finest people in the
Yeah,
world,
well,
and I've also helped
John
to defend
Lennon,
some of
he
the worst.
defended. Is
I
that a
never
terrible
justified.
He was not proud
never
of defending John
justified
Lennon the same way as he
anything any of
announced
my
that he was
clients
proud of
have done.
defending
I
Epstein.
am
What's this got
proud
to
of
do
my
with
role
Israel?
as a
This has got
defense
to do with the
lawyer,
fact that this
just
man,
like-
the credibility
just
of
like
this man's
John
on the line.
Adams was
He defends
proud to
Israel on the one
defend
hand,
the
and on the
people.
other hand, he defends Epstein. I think the public should know this.
Do you want me to
And that
play?
he's
Do you
proud.
want me to play the clips?
He's proud
do you
of
want me,
it.
Mohammed, do you want me to play the clips of you
And I don't
that
know-
do the rounds
I
on
don't-
social
I-
media
yeah, I know.
saying some very inflammatory
No problem.
things?
I'm
Do you want me to?
Yeah, no
AP,
problem. Yes.
what did Mohammed Hijab proposition you? What was it? Something about a shower or something? I made the biggest mistake of Googling what that was. He started insulting you.
Yusuf, your gain is a little bit down. You might want to increase your sound.
Let me.
But what he proposed to me was, and I'm sorry for saying it, but so it was a golden shower. That's what he said. He came into our chat when we were talking about Islam, David Wood and I, and he started posting all kinds of weird things that we should do to each other, including like give each other a golden shower. And he also had this whole he also said that he and his fellow Muslims would sexually violate my wife. He actually did that by packing it into this whole obscure language and posted it on Twitter. He did all kinds of really, really messed up things. He told me to commit suicide. He justified child marriage. It's insane. I don't know. I sent you a clip over on Twitter private messages if you want to pull it up later, of him talking about the child marriage thing with Sneaker.
Yeah, but this is what I'm talking about with Piers being completely unprepared. He knows that Hijab's going to go ad hominem, but he's got nothing on Mohammed Hijab yet. The internet is filled with like incriminating clips of our esteemed Muslim philosopher, resident Oxford scholar.
Why are you not looking at me?
Because I'm looking
Why
at
are
the
you not
three of
looking
us.
at me? I'm right
I can
here.
turn to you, and then the viewers see me and you looking
Look at me
us.
man to man.
Fine.
Look
I'll
at me
turn
man
to
to
you.
man. Look at my eyes.
It's called
Well,
an
I'm speaking
aesthetic
to
thing
you.
for videos.
Okay, now the first thing I wanted to say was that this man's credibility is something which is shocking. That is we're even entertaining.
What do you base it on?
on the fact that he actually defended Epstein, and after the fact, he said he was proud of it. He was in Epstein's vicinity. He was in Epstein's vicinity. He had a massage in his vicinity. This is the kind of person that we're having on the show.
He was in the house of his client. He was the house of one of his clients. What a mystery.
It's one thing to say, this person publicly stood up for or defended Jeffrey Epstein because he wanted to. It's another thing to say this guy was hired and represented legally Jeffrey Epstein in front of the law. Those are not the same things. One of them means that you actually defend somebody with your own will for no purpose at all, maybe because you're ill-intentioned, who is guilty and who is a terrible person. The other one just means that you are doing your job, and there's nothing bad about it. He's once again trying to appeal to people who don't understand how the law works.
So, and this is my favorite thing about what's happening here is Hijab is used to insulting people at Speaker's Corner. People with no resource, no connections, no nothing, just ordinary Joes. And he's going up against one of the most renowned solicitors, lawyers in the world, who will be very well versed in libel laws and is highly likely to pursue him in the courts if he missteps. It's one of the things I love about Hijab and Ali Dawah is they never learn. They constantly come at me, and I'll publicize those videos. I'll send videos of them going to Golders Green and harassing Jews outside the homes of Holocaust survivors. I'll send them clips. I'll share clips of them attacking Jewish kids and intimidating Jews. And these videos get picked up by more than the Speaker's Corner circle. They get picked up by the media. And there's been a number of times where I've had Hijab and Ali Dawah featured in mainstream newspapers for the hardcore anti-Semitism or outrageous extremism that they're expressing. And he's making the same mistake here. He's going after Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz isn't Bob of Speaker's Corner. Bless Bob of Speaker's Corner, but he doesn't have the same resource and the same legal reach that Dershowitz will. I would not be surprised if Dershowitz comes after Hijab in a court of law, because Hijab now has a lot of money. He's a big YouTuber, a big influencer. He has sponsored placements in his videos. He has ad revenue. He gets paid for speaking engagements. He's a target in terms of a court of law. There is, and the UK has the toughest libel laws in the world.
Yusuf, just want to point out, lots of people in the chat are saying that the video is too loud or we are too low. Didn't know that, but our voices are lower than the sound of the video, significantly, apparently.
Defending Israel. That's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is, in the first interaction where me and you were talking about October the 7th, we spent about 3 or 4 minutes actually talking about sexual assault allegations, if you remember that. And actually here, what we have is Israeli soldiers like Mir from Unit 100, and that's on The Guardian, it's on Sky News, it's on all these kinds of platforms, coming out, and there's videographic evidence of him raping another man. I haven't heard condemnation from you, and I don't expect to hear it from him who defended Epstein. Well, this shows you the bias in the coverage for a year.
So did you say something?
The soldiers referring to Meir, he was never a suspect of the case. He wasn't even in Sdeteman when the case happened. He was just a member of the same unit who came out to defend his comrades on TV. This is the only thing he related to. He wasn't related to the case itself in any legal sense. He was never a suspect. And the video footage, even the prosecution so far doesn't claim that the video show the rape. It just claims it show the events that going toward that event. But they are still debating what's happening there. Like so far, there is no official charge. There was any rape, just abuse, basically violent body search, basically.
Yeah.
There is so far no. There is no official confirmation or even official accusation there was rape. Just something that just repeat it and recycle on media.
This is one of those instances, one of those things that the anti-Israel position immediately picks up, and without having the proper evidence, starts twisting the message, twisting the narrative in such a way that it just suits them. What you can actually see on the footage, and you can find the footage, you can just search for it, and you can find the footage online, right? It's not graphic footage. It's actually quite easy to find and to view. You obviously don't see sexual assault or rape or gang rape or anything like that taking place. What you see on the footage is that reservists at the detention center take one individual who is thought to be a Hamas member. They take him.
So far, he's a Hamas police officer.
Yeah, see, even worse. He's a Hamas police officer. They take him between. They take him behind shields to hide him from the other detainees, where they then search him, and they have a search dog that is going crazy and barking, which also indicates that there is something going on. And you see only one person of those reservists behind him handling this guy with his hands, apparently cavity search or just body search, whatever it is, which can be rough.
Nobody heard the term. There's the term what called prison Piers.
Yeah.
Prison Piers, when people hide stuff inside their. This is prison Piers.
So apparently the guy was hiding something, or whatever happened. Maybe something bad took place. Who knows? If so, it should be pursued, whatever it is. But this is definitely not an example of just Israelis freely raping detained people and all that. None of that happened. This is just pure libel.
And I think the key thing over here, which differentiates Israel from its surrounding neighbors, is the fact we're talking about this is because Israeli police investigated. It was an investigation because there are standards in Israel. And if there is an accusation, there is an investigation and it's taken to court. This does not happen in Gaza. It does not happen under Hezbollah in Iran. And the only reason that anti-Zionists and anti-Semites are able to come up with these talking points is because we do thoroughly investigate each accusation of mispractice. It's the only reason we're talking about this is because Israel is a democracy.
Yeah. Well, we know the ICJ have said that there's a plausible genocide.
You haven't been watching my show.
I think I have.
No, you haven't.
Have you spoken about me?
You're talking complete bullshit.
Okay, tell me why.
Right?
Tell me why.
Because I did condemn what you've just talked about in a previous debate.
Good.
Right?
Dershowitz, do you condemn it?
Yes, of course. I condemn any rape of anybody and any assault on anybody who's in captivity.
And you also
Now, Mohammed, Hijab, do you condemn the taking of women in war and the forced marital rape of those slave women? Do you condemn that? Hijab, do you condemn Muslim warriors going into, actually even better, do you condemn the Yazidi, the ISIS Islamists who captured a Yazidi girl and then traded her with Gazans, and she was only recently rescued? It's so easy to play this game, but he won't condemn. I mean, he'll probably condemn ISIS, but he won't condemn.
There are videos of, there are graphic videos of Hezbollah members stripping women, and basically like something you can't really get confused about, all the screaming and all that. I won't go to any more details, but it's videos you can find online of Hezbollah doing it on video.
Yeah. Joseph, one more time. Is there any way that you can amplify only us, our volumes, or gain, or anything like that?
Let me try. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I try and grapple with the volumes.
Yes, let's talk. Let's talk business.
I mean, so far is either the debate, whatever or not, some reservists shove an object into the ass of a police officer or of a Hamas police officer or not. This is basically the debate.
Yeah. In all honesty, even if something really, really bad happened, even if something bad happened or some misconduct took place, um, you know, it should be handled in a legal way. But if we are talking about a Hamas police officer, I won't spend a second feeling bad about it.
Okay, I can't do that. It does not allow me to, as far as I can tell, reduce it. I've turned it right the way down on the YouTube, but yeah, I don't think I can do anything.
Maybe you can try to lower the resolution of a video.
That won't affect the sound though. The sound volume will still remain the
May-
same. I'll press play. Let me know in the chat
I
if
mean,
it's still way
sometimes-
too loud.
sometimes
And I
the
don't
right
video-
of
defend-
rape,
I
the
don't
right of rape
defend-
protest that took place in Israel.
Never
Yeah,
happened.
but
And you acknowledge that there's a
if
problem
any
in Israel
rapes
with
took
this.
place, they will be investigated. They will be fully investigated. They will be
Do you acknowledge that
court-martialed.
there's a problem
And
in
if
Israeli
anybody is
society?
convicted of that, they deserve their
Do you
punishment. I
acknowledge
don't
that there's a
defend
problem in
What about the
Rape.
problem with Hamas
Sure.
raping women?
I have no
I
compunction.
want to say something about the protest. The protest didn't happen because they defend the rape or anything. In fact, the accusation was still didn't brought up, was still not known. The protest was only because if the claim it was solely based on the Hamas testimony. So they basically complain, hey, why you use only why only because of Hamas said so we arrest the soldiers. This is what the protest was about.
Yeah, it wasn't about we have the right
Like
to
the
rape.
prot-
It was about we are going by accusations and mistreating our own soldiers for this. That's what the protest was about. It wasn't about right of rape. That's just complete nonsense.
Over the 7th.
I have no compunction condemning Hamas for anything that they've done. You've said that. You've asked me before, and I've told you before. I have no moral scruple. Neither do the majority of the Muslim world. I tell you now, anything that Hamas has done, we have condemned in the first instance. But we're not
Wrong.
seeing the same.
Lie. That's a complete lie. That is a complete lie. First off, most of them around the world do not even acknowledge the things that Hamas actually did. And once they are informed about what Hamas did on October 7th, they just they brush it off, or they justify it, or they say you deserve it, and so on. There is no unanimity. There is no trend of Muslims condemning what Hamas did. This is just a complete lie.
Oh, 100%. And Hijab himself hasn't condemned it. He always says, I condemn all terrorism. I condemn all. It's never, it's an all lives matter statement.
Yeah.
But when you actually get down into the
Like-
gritty.
It's like
So go on, Evan.
I mean, it's like when people accuse right-wing Israelis and say, "Oh, when right-wing Israelis say, oh, I am not against Arabs, only against terrorists," and then say, "Oh, but you think every Arab is terrorist." So it's basically, it's kind of like the same crafted language. Basically, oh, I'm against all terrorism, but we know you have very, very unique definition of what terrorism is. Very unique standard what is and what isn't terrorism.
Same level of coverage with Hamas as we are seeing with these people that are shoving rods up people's ass and raping people on videographic evidence. And you have 3,000 people, you talk about the hostages, you've got 3,000 people in essentially captivity, according to Human Rights Watch. And
What do you mean, man? The footage was everywhere. It
Can
was
I
everywhere
share?
on the
Can
media.
I share a screen for a moment?
Yeah, definitely.
Can I share a screen for a moment?
Yeah.
You see it, right? Screen. Yes. Wait a second.
The media around the world literally had one instance of the IDF
You see?
of IDF members allegedly doing something wrong, and then went
Yeah.
all over it, and you saw it
Those
everywhere.
guys, those according to Hijab are considered Palestinian hostages. Like, yeah, see, they were administrative detention. Those guys, basically, you see this guy, you see him Hamas, this guy, non-Hamas official, this guy non-Hamas official, this guy also non-Hamas official. All of them are non-Hamas official, but because they were in administrative detention, they are hostages. Those are some of the examples of who he called Palestinian hostages, basically.
I mean, I hate the line when they refer to the prisoners as hostages. the prisoners carried out some of the most brutal and savage attacks on Israelis known. Yahya Sinwar was a Palestinian prisoner.
Yeah, I mean, but also if you basically go, oh, I'm not talking about the prisoners, I only talked about the one in administrative detention because we didn't face trial or charge. Like, even then, as I showed, those are usually it's only people who are known terror operatives, basically people who in the past already have been charged for terrorism and only served the sentence, got released, and then they got rearrested again.
And
Those
also,
usually the people go to administrative detention.
the United Kingdom does administrative detention. Most nations do administrative detention. It's a security measure to keep citizens safe from security threats. That's why it's implemented.
And basically you can't argue the hostages also because the basic fact that there is no ransom demand to release them. There is no, basically, to be a hostage, you need to be taken for a specific ransom.
Yeah, it's also not against international law, by the way. International law allows a degree of administrative detention, especially in conflict zones and war zones and so on. The US did it. All NATO members did it. The UK did it. It has been.
Right now, they're like. Right now, as we speak, there are like tens of thousands of people who are in administrative detention because they suspect ISIS affiliation, like including their families.
Who are prisoners of war of Israel, and we're spending a fraction of the time speaking about them as compared to speaking about the hostages. This shows you the inherent bias.
There's no comparison. There's no comparison between innocent hostages who did nothing wrong and people who are being charged with criminal offenses.
They're not charged with criminal offenses. That's why you're meant to.
It's quite a Jewish expression. It's a bit of a chutzpah to argue the law with one of the world's most world-renowned lawyers. That's quite chutzpah.
Yeah, I mean, according to him, if Alan Dershowitz refused to represent Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein didn't face the right charge, the right due process, Epstein will be considered innocent hostage.
Exactly.
You know better.
But they are charged with security offenses. But you can't.
They're not charged with criminal offenses.
Compare.
They are arrested without charge.
You can't compare a 3-year-old baby.
They're not charged with criminal offenses.
Don't shout over each other. We can't hear the answer.
He's lying to the public.
Allow him to respond.
Go ahead.
To somebody who's a member of Hamas.
Say that
Sorry,
again.
Adam, we couldn't hear because he was shouting.
I was shouting. Say it
Alan,
again.
he says the 3,000.
You can't compare
Alan, he says the 3,000.
baby.
Alan, just to be.
That's the most self-aware comment I've ever heard from Hijab, and I've been debating with the guy for about a decade now.
I was shouting. Let's say it again.
I was shouting.
Like, because of Mohammed Hijab, I've spent about 15 minutes trying to adjust the volumes on Riverside because he's shouting so much.
I mean, I don't think it will be impossible to make the sounds tolerable for viewers within.
Be clear. He said the 3,000 people he's talking about were all arrested without charge, and therefore they've not been charged with crimes. Your response to that?
Well, if they were, they should be released. Nobody should be arrested without charge. If you're held for a security reason.
Pathetic.
What is it? He speaks like this to everyone. It's so weird. Like, what do you think the dynamic was like for him growing up? Where do you think he's picked up this weird way of speaking to people?
He is a textbook narcissist. It's funny. I took psychology classes and abnormal psychology classes, and I remember very, very specifically the topic of personality disorders, of narcissistic personality disorder, where you have to go through case studies of, like, it's just a description of what a person does, and then you are supposed to make an estimate on what this person's personality disorder is. And it's like Mohammed Hijab perfectly fits the description of narcissistic personality disorder. He is always like, he doesn't care who he's talking to. He always has the same attitude of superiority, of bullying, of always acting like he's in charge. And this is, I mean, even in the Middle East, culturally, it should be taught to you that this is not how you act toward the elderly, toward older people. This guy is actually sitting there as a guy in his 30s, in his mid 30s, yelling at an 86-year-old, extremely successful, world renowned man, and saying, "Good boy, good boy, good boy," treating him like a dog. It's just it's so absurd and inappropriate and ridiculous on so many levels.
And yet
Who hurt
this.
him?
Sorry, go on, Adam.
Who hurt him? Like something was happening in his life.
I mean, the thing that blows my mind is this: is like Muhammad's job, his literal job, is to be an ambassador of Islam, to lead by example and bring people, call them to the deen, call them to the faith of Islam, and it's insane. Who's gonna what's that thing? Oh wow, that's a religion I'd love to join. That looks like it's got really good in Hebrew midah, good character traits.
Well, to be honest,
Lead by example.
I would say he represents it accurately, honestly.
I will
During
say
the
what I
war,
want. It's
great-
uncensored.
Sorry, go on, Hatton.
Nice. I just asked who that.
Good boy.
Let me finish, please.
Pathetic.
Let me
It's
make my
childish.
point.
Try and have a
Can I
proper
make my
debate.
point,
I'll say
please?
what I like.
Can I make my point? Let me make my point. Great Britain confined tens of thousands of people without charges during the Second World War.
Two wrongs
The
don't
United
make a
States
right.
did the same.
Two wrongs don't
I
make a right.
was
Should we talk about what
strongly
Hitler done?
opposed.
Let's talk about what
Please
Hitler
let
done.
me make my point. I'm opposed to that. I wrote an article against
Good boy.
administrative detention. But you
Good.
can't compare that, no
Good.
matter how
Can you
bad
stop
it
this,
is.
Mohammed? It's
You
very
can't
very
compare it
tedious already.
to 3-year-olds being
Debating.
kidnapped, to people
listening to his
being
points.
raped and murdered. You can't compare what happened on October 7th to what Israel has done.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
waiting for
mean,
Ali Dawah to start dropping grapes into his mouth. When you have to play with Ali Dawah, it's the same level. It's like such weird faux confidence. It's so it's weird.
I mean, did the video lag for you too sometimes?
Not much. You might have a bad
Yeah, I
connection.
mean, maybe we can lower resolution
No, it's
so
because
it
you
will
have
move more
it's
smoothly.
because you have a
maybe.
bad connection, Adin.
It's
of you.
because you're sitting in
Yeah.
Judea and Samaria on some like terrible connection.
Ah,
They need
don't
better.
don't dox me.
Ah. Well, we'll edit out this bit.
Yes, you
In
can't, because
terms of
on the one
security
hand,
prisoners,
you've got
there's
30,000
no
people, and the other hand,
comparison
you've got
at all.
about 100.
And stop
That's 30
interrupting me,
times
please.
more. That's 30 times more. If you want us to take you seriously, if you want us to take this coverage seriously, if you want us to take Western media seriously, then let's, for God's sake, talk about proportionality as your favorite word. We're talking about 30,000 people detained in prisons on the one hand, and 100 people
There you go.
who are hostages. And yet we have managed somehow to spend way more time
Hang on,
proportionally.
you said 3,000 a minute ago. Which one is it? 3,000?
Sorry, 3,000. 3,000.
That's
Stand
not
corrected.
30,000.
Not 30.
Okay,
3,000.
well, get your numbers right if you're going to make that cut.
Okay, I misspoke.
Exaggerated
Not a
10
problem.
times.
Not a problem. He spoke about Iran. Let me ask a question
Pause,
about
tell you what,
it.
let me-
pause. Pierce rarely ever does this. He rarely ever actually takes advantage of somebody misspeaking like this and then gets on their case like this. You can see here that that Pierce is really sick and tired of Mohammed Hijab's attitude. So he's just jumping on that and be like, get your numbers right. Like, we're exaggerating tenfold.
You know what it is as well? Dershowitz is playing this right. When you watch Rabbi Shmuley debating hijab, they were just screaming at each other. Dershowitz is just sitting back and giving hijab the rope he needs to hang himself. It's like let the man speak.
Release the air. Release the air.
He will
All
also
the steam, get out.
later start smiling and expressing how he's actually totally happy with how this is going. It's kind of it's funny. I wish Rabbi Shmuley had handled his conversations and discussions and debates on this topic better with Mohammed Hijab.
I
with
wish he didn't
Candace
debate at
Owens,
all.
and so I think the same thing. I just don't want to say it, but Yeah, I think
I would
honestly
say
he has
it.
done great disservice to Israel, to Jews, and so on with his appearances. It's kind of a shame, honestly.
Yeah.
He asked
I
the
mean,
question.
he
Sure,
was,
go
And
he
you
ahead.
was,
guys,
Okay.
I mean, he would
Oh,
just
go on.
pick out. He picked up because he was with Kennedy. This is it. No one really knows who he is in the Jewish community. He was just the Kennedy rabbi.
try and
Go
debate
ahead,
it.
go
At the
ahead.
moment, Alan Dershowitz is being very civilized in the way he's debating.
I'm sure you're going to say
You're-
that.
You're just making
might have
ad
leverage
hominem
on you.
attacks and shouting all
He's
the
your
time.
friend.
No one can understand it when you
Have you
shout
met him
all the time.
before?
I know Alan well.
Oh, you know him well.
I respect him very much.
Oh, yes, you do.
He's one of America's top lawyers.
His top lawyers.
Yeah, he
Aha.
is.
Aha. And you're an unbiased person here on
An
Central.
unbiased person about Alan Dershowitz. Why?
Does he have leverage on you, Piers Morgan?
There's no leverage on me, no.
You've got a picture with Maxwell.
Yes, with Ghislaine
Did you go to
Maxwell.
the island?
No, I've never been to the island. I've never met Jeffrey Epstein.
Look how disgusting this is.
It's also like the Jewish community, the Zionists aren't that happy with Piers Morgan. It's not like he's doing this amazing job where he's stitching up all the anti-Zionists. He's giving a platform to Neanderthals like Mojo.
Well, the good thing is that
I mean,
lots
I
of
like
people
how
who are watching this.
99% of their examples of
Yeah, so lots of
like
people
how
who are watching this
99% of
were.
their examples how
were,
the Zionist is how
Okay, this is funny because it's like lagging and we're speaking over each other because it's
yeah,
lagging.
we kind of like colluded with each other.
I think it's your connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was
Damn it.
I was saying that I don't even remember what I was going to say now. But oh yeah, I was saying that there are lots of people who are watching this who are unbiased, who don't or who don't know who Mohammed Hijab is, who have tuned in for the first time and who are watching this. The good thing was, the satisfying thing was that the majority of those who are who don't know who this guy is or who are not very much familiar with these discussions seem to be disgusted with Mohammed Hijab. If you go on X alone and see and look at Piers Morgan's tweets about this, there are lots of people saying, "Who in the world is this guy? Why would you invite such a person on?" Even pro-Palestine people saying, "Please, I am pro-Palestine. I am anti-Israel. This guy, please never ever invite this guy back on again." Unfortunately, they don't realize that their representation is never really good. It's always quite bad.
I think
That's the best representation that we will ever get.
I think one of the things, if you look on the YouTube comments, because I went on the YouTube comments before watching this video today, because I thought, if I'm not going to watch it, I'm at least going to test the water by reading how people are responding. And of course, it's all the Dawa groupies in the chat just flooding the comment section, praising their boy Mohammed Hijab for his decisive victory. But it's on when you're on a platform like Piers Morgan, your job is not to preach to the choir. Your job is to convert those that aren't familiar or either hostile with your message or not familiar with it. And he's doing a terrible job of that. He's doing he's just performing to his audience because that's how he grows his persona. As you said, he touched on before, he's a narcissist. That's all that matters.
The good thing is Piers said, "I will not have him on again." That's what he said on Twitter. So he said he was pathetic and childish, and I will not have him on again.
Wow, that's
But he ridiculed him.
Sorry, go on, Adam. I was just going to say
that. But Mohammed Hijab ratioed him. Yeah.
Man.
All I was going to say was for Piers Morgan to ban you from his show for being childish. That is something. Like, he's had everything on there. He's had people that identify as babies. People like, it's a very, very low bar to get on the Piers Morgan show, and to get banned for being childish it's quite something.
He had this this parody woman on his show who was basically half naked and wearing a diaper. And he didn't call her childish, but he eventually called Mohammed Hijab childish.
And she'll get invited back before he does.
Be honest.
I never spent more than 5 minutes with
Be
Ghislaine
honest.
Maxwell. I've answered you. So what part of that wants to...
Do you condemn him being on the island? He's your good friend.
You can ask
No,
him
ask him, do you condemn him?
about Jeffrey Epstein.
You had a massage.
He represented him.
He said he didn't take his shorts off.
Do you know what?
That's
None
what-
of
that's
this
what he
has got
said.
anything to do with Israel.
He said he didn't take his shorts off when he was getting a
Can you
massage.
please, Mohammed.
Why is this uncomfortable?
It's nothing to do with the
He
debate.
didn't take his shorts off, but he's got his pants down now, hasn't he?
Can you stop it?
Why?
What's the point?
Why? He
Because it's
defended one of the
actually-
most obnoxious people in the last 100 years. Why should I
Because
stop it?
actually what is going on right
should I
now
stop it?
in the Middle East is incredibly important.
Yes,
You're
and you have this.
trivializing-
Mohammed
The
Hijab
most
referring
worst
to
people
someone
in
else as
500
most
years.
obnoxious. Man.
Man who's
You are trivializing this. Well, if you didn't want to do a debate, don't agree to do it.
who said I'm not doing a debate? I'm saying this person who's
Come on and
defending
make
Israel.
stupid ad hominem attacks. It's pathetic.
Oh, okay. All right. He's your good friend. You want to defend him so much.
What are you talking about?
You're defending him.
Huh?
You're defending him. You're defending a monster,
I'm
a pervert, an old pervert.
He's not a pervert or a monster.
Why is he not? He knew Epstein. And for us,
If only Piers Morgan
I
had
mean-
whipped out some of the hadith from Aisha and what Aisha said about Muhammad, his prophet. That Piers needs to do his homework. Piers needs to do a little more research as to how to shut up somebody like Mohammed Hijab.
Should we talk about the anti-Zionist camp who represent them, like Scott Reiter, who is convicted pedophile twice, or Andrew Tate, who basically convicted of much worse crime than Epstein? Like,
Yeah, Mohammed Hijab defends and represents
basically,
the
there was, I
religious worldview.
forgot his name, the Syrian,
It's happening again.
We're going to do a GoFundMe for Adam's internet connection after the stream.
my Patreon, I opened Patreon.
Yeah, he believes in child marriage. He believes he believes in the idea that Muhammad, his prophet, married a 6-year-old girl and had sex with her when she was 9 and he was 50 years old. And he defends this as normal and moral and allowable and acceptable. He says that it's totally fine to do it today as long as the law allows it. He believes in all kinds of different things. He believes in taking sex slaves in war, of fighting the disbelievers, the non-Muslims, and then taking their women as sex slaves. He believes in all of these different things, but he is sitting here actually accusing somebody else of being a pervert or of having, some sexual deviancy or whatever it is.
I've never seen the tweets from Alan
I
Dershowitz.
mean,
Messaging people about golden showers. I've never seen those messages. I have seen them from Mohammed Hijab. If we're talking about degeneracy, deviant perversions.
there's good influence.
Why are you doing this, Mohammed?
Why not?
Because it's pointless. You may get a few
Okay,
clicks
ask
on,
your questions.
You might get a
Ask
few
your questions.
clicks on it. So what?
It's not.
Ask your questions.
Let me be very clear. It's not pointless. He just called me a pervert. He will be sued now
Yeah, that's
for defamation.
There we go. I knew it. You don't fire shots at a world-class lawyer like that and don't expect any blowback. That's
jump on
amazing.
the opportunity.
I hope he does it.
He
I really
sees the
sincerely hope he does
opportunity.
it. I hope he does it and he
Yeah.
finishes this guy financially.
Yeah. Also, if he wants, Alan needs connecting with any UK lawyers for the due diligence, how the legal process and the libel process works in the UK. I'm more than happy to connect you, Alan, with some of our finest on this side of the shore.
I could use some help. Like, the allegations about me.
So if they're from the UK, I can connect you with some very good lawyers, but it's only worthwhile pursuing if the person you're going after has money. Now, in Mohammed Hijab's case, he does have money. Libel is very expensive in the UK. You're talking like £250,000 per case minimum in most cases. So that's a lot of money for somebody to stump up. Now, Mohammed Hijab probably has that. He earns a lot from his ad revenue. So
Maybe use that money to fund the defense case for the soldiers, since that man were accused for shoving the object on the ass of a Hamas police officer.
I mean, Hijab just labelled one of them, so it could potentially come from those funds.
It will be nice.
And we will be able to resolve this
opinion. In
in
the
a
UK, we have
court of
different
law. I
defamation laws.
guarantee you.
He's such an idiot. In the UK, defamation laws are so much stricter than America.
Exactly.
In America, you can basically say anything. It's very, very difficult to win a libel case. Here, it's incredible. The onus is on the person who's being accused of proving. So what Hijab's just said then would land him in deep trouble in UK courts if he can't prove that Dershowitz is guilty of all the things he's just said, which he can't. Otherwise, Dershowitz would be in jail.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
You that he will be sued.
In
for
my
calling me a
understanding, you
pervert.
are a pervert
The woman
because
who
you are
falsely
acquainted with
accused
Jeffrey
me
Epstein.
has now withdrawn her
Sure, I've got my own
accusation
cases. I know the
and
law very well.
acknowledged that
You
she
can't
may have
threaten me. You can't
confused me
threaten
with
that. I know
somebody
very
else.
well.
Yeah, every time.
And
I
calling me
consider
a
you to be a
pervert
pervert
will
because of your
result
connection with
in
Jeffrey
a
Epstein.
defamation lawsuit
Sure,
in
I'm
an
ready for
American
it.
court
I'm
and in a
ready.
British
I'm ready
court.
for the
I
lawsuit.
assure you of that.
I believe
Let's
you
move
are
on to
an old
Israel
pervert.
now.
Why don't we move
We'll
on to the
resolve
debate?
this in
You're an old
court.
pervert.
Let's move on
You're
to
an old
Israel.
pervert.
It's really, is there any point considering this?
Do you want to throw?
No, is it?
I actually looked it up yesterday.
I mean, you can debate it on court if you want to debate it on court.
Yeah, I looked it up yesterday, the whole defamation issue, and I'm pretty sure that Alan Dershowitz knows exactly what he's talking about. But if you on TV where thousands of people are watching, by now probably over 1 million people have, or by now 1 million people maybe have seen this. I don't know how many views this has now. If you insistingly give details and call somebody a pervert falsely, this is solid grounds for defamation.
So 100% in America, you'd have more of a case because you'd be expressing an opinion. In the UK, Mohammed Hijab would have to prove in a court of law that Dershowitz is a pervert.
Yeah,
and that's a very difficult thing to prove in a court of law. Hijab is very much out of his depth. Yeah, I hope he's wearing a life jacket under that.
I think there was once a case. I think, like, I want to mention, there was an Israeli who once accused Alan Dershowitz, and he got sued for that, and he got to pay for Alan Dershowitz. It was Israeli guy who also believed all of those cases.
But should we have a
And he got
little?
sued, yeah.
Should we have a little wager? Who can get it right? How many weeks before we see Mohammed Hijab tweeting an official apology and retracting his statement? I'm going to give it 5 weeks until we see that tweet.
I wonder how the process works, but I think that we will definitely see it. I'm not sure how long it will take, though. I will take your word for it.
What's the point?
Do you want
I'm
to
not doing the debate you were booked to do.
Do you want to both throw the towel?
You were not booked to talk about this.
Do you want to give up?
Just debate the issues.
Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about Iran. Let's talk about Iran.
Let's talk about Iran.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Do you support Iran?
Okay. Well, let me answer your question. Iran was attacked on April the 1st. Right?
Now he's
it was
talking the
attacked.
topic. After Alan Dershowitz said, "I will sue you," now he suddenly switches to the topic.
The embassy of Iran was attacked in Syria by Israel. After that, on the first occasion, they then sent missiles and drones, correct? Now, my question to you is...
Incorrect. Iran has spent somewhere in the region of 20 to 40 billion building up militias around Israel that regularly attack. They've named their military force that controls these proxies the Quds force, the Jerusalem force. Their entire purpose is to destroy Israel. This did not start in April. This did not start on the 7th of October. They've been building up these militias, these terrorist forces, for decades. for decades, since the 80s.
And
They've
the
been pouring
embassy,
billions.
and in that particular attack that you're talking about, the embassy wasn't attacked. It was a compound that was near the embassy and connected somehow under the fence that was attacked. It wasn't even the embassy itself. It was completely fine. Like not a single embassy worker was harmed in that attack.
Unlike the pager attack, where mysteriously the Iranian embassy ambassador had a pager that was given to Hezbollah operatives. That is curious. Why would he have that?
Does Iran have a right?
In that same, yeah, and in the same embassy attack, also several Hezbollah members were killed.
To defend itself? And if so, what is a proportionate response? Because you see, I've been having a moral quandary about the issue. Piers Morgan, what's a proportionate response for Iran?
I tell you what I think about Iran. I think Iran is an unbelievably nefarious place which has been fueling Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah for many years with a joint
Does that have a right to defend itself?
joint ideology that they want to eradicate Israel in any way they can.
Okay. Does it have
so
a right to
I
defend
think
itself?
Iran is one of the most despicable
Does it have a right to
regimes
defend itself?
in the world. I also think that right now the Iranian regime is in serious danger.
You look completely discombobulated.
What do you mean?
You look disheveled.
I'm telling you what I think of Iran.
I love it when Mohammed Hijab throws in long words, often using them in the wrong context. They're trying to appear smart. It's
Did he what? Did he just say
discombobulated.
He tried to say discombobulated, but he didn't say it. He said combobulated. Can you play it again?
Yeah, let's get back.
Any way they can.
Okay. Does it have
so
a right to
I
defend
think
itself?
Iran is one of the most despicable
Does it have a right to
regimes
defend itself?
in the world. I also think that right now the Iranian regime is in serious danger.
You look completely discombobulated.
Oh, okay.
I think you got
Fair
it
enough.
right, dude.
Fair
But
enough.
but that's just how we all talk. That's just no. He's so weird, Mohammed. But I do love when he uses words wrong, and he regularly does that. It's yeah.
What do you mean?
You look disheveled.
I'm telling you what I think of Iran.
I'm asking you, do they have a right to defend themselves? Do you think they have a right to defend themselves? Both of you can answer the question. Do they have a right to defend? They were attacked. The sovereign nation was attacked. My question is, does it have a right to defend?
Iran has been fueling
Isn't that the
attacks
question
on
you've been
Israel
asking?
now for what, 40 years?
He's saying that Iran was attacked and Iran has a right to defend itself. You already very much pointed it out, but Iran was not attacked. Iran was there was a strike, an airstrike by Israel against the building, the consular building in the embassy complex in Syria, in Damascus of Iran. It wasn't the embassy, the main embassy building itself, but the adjacent building that was struck. As a result, I think over a dozen people died, most of them IRGC and other operatives that work on behalf of the whole international proxy team that whose entire purpose and aim it is to attack Israel. Two civilians were also died in the attack. That's it. 2 civilians died. So if you want to actually make it about a ratio, there's like a, I don't know how much, less than 20% or so was civilian. It's quite a fair strike. This is not an attack against Iran. It is a strike against forces that are playing a huge, crucial role in a war that you are fighting as a result of a terrorist organization that is attacking you, that is led by those very people that Israel struck. Iran doesn't have a right to defend itself as a result. Iran was struck specifically because they are the aggressor, because they are the attacker. There are 2 things that I think everyone should be aware of. Number one is that Iran has an official slogan that goes death to America, death to Israel.
Magba Israel, Magba America.
Yeah. So Magba America, Magba Israel. These are this is the slogan of Iran. Hezbollah also has the same slogan, so it is part of their slogan to say death to Israel. Hamas believes in destroying Israel altogether and killing all the Jews. The Houthis also believe death to America, death to Israel, and curse the Jews. These are the guys, And Israel, when striking them in the middle of a war, is then accused of attacking Iran, and Iran has the right to defend itself. Nonsense. Nonsense.
So Eden, you were going to say something.
I mean, Iran just a few months shortly before the attack on the embassy, its backed militias attacked the American embassy in Iraq. So,
Yeah. And yet, bizarrely, the left and many the progressives in the West side with these guys. This is one of the things I can't get my head around, is why somebody who supports LGBT rights, equality for all, anti-racism would then fly the flag of Hezbollah or the Houthis. Or
I mean, even like why communists or tank is supporting them? Like Iran killed much more people, much more communists than Pinochet. Like Hezbollah executed also several communists throughout these days. Like even the head of the Communist Party of Lebanon. Like even in Hamas said that communism is exactly the red-green alliance going to war.
Yeah, I think those who support
beyond just slogans.
I think those in the West, the progressives who support Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran should go there. That's what they should do.
I would love that. And I also set up a GoFundMe for that. We're going to set up 2 GoFundMes, one for Aden's connection and one for the flights for all of these leftists that cheerlead for Hamas and Hezbollah from their ivory tower in America.
I've been having a moral quandary about this. I've been having a moral quandary about Iran.
Have you?
Yeah, moral quandary, yes. Moral quandary, I don't know. Do they have a right to defend themselves? And if so, what is the proportionate
You're
response?
supporting Iran, to be clear.
I'm asking you. No,
Are
I'm
you
not
supporting Iran?
I'm not supporting.
This is the disingenuousness of Mohammed Hijab as well, because he hates Iran. He hates Shia. He calls them Rafida dogs. And yet here he is cheerleading for them. Why? Because his hatred of the Jews itself, the Jewish state, let's say, his hatred of the Jewish state is more than his hatred of Iran.
Exactly.
Antithetical to many of these organizations for my own purposes. But my...
Sorry, go on, Adam.
I mean, Iran, it's only the beacon of hope that Israel will somehow get diminished.
Question:
Do you support the Iranian regime?
Not unconditionally, but I support their right.
What conditions do you agree with them about?
Their right to defend themselves. Do you believe they have a right to defend themselves?
No, they're terrorists.
Oh, so they don't have a right to defend themselves? Iran does not have a right to defend itself.
They do, but they're not the ones.
So what is proportionate response?
They're not the ones.
What's a proportionate response?
Okay.
No,
can I answer you?
You asked this question to the
You're
people.
just going to keep talking. Can I answer you?
What's the proportionate response?
The proportionate response to Iran is to stop them trying to destroy Israel through their proxies, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. What they've been trying to do for many years.
What is a proportionate response of Iran after their embassy was smashed and destroyed in Syria and 16 people were killed? What's the proportionate response?
Well, what about the proportionate response to everything Iran's done?
Which is against the Vienna Conventions.
What about the response to everything Iran has been doing?
What did Iran do to Israel? Who did they kill? Who did they?
They never killed anybody.
Who did they? Excuse me. Hold on. Which Israeli civilian have Iran successfully targeted? Give me one name.
You don't think Iran's been responsible for any Israeli civilian dying?
I'm asking you to edify
What about
me.
the way they funded Hamas?
Pause this for a second. My camera stopped working.
I mean, it's very easy. It's very easy way to answer to the question. If you want,
Go ahead.
Wanted to say if you want a short answer, Iran has the right to defend itself. The Iranian regime don't. This simple.
The funny thing is, he is saying how many Israelis did Iran successfully target? Listen to that, the absurdity there. He is basically saying that Iran didn't successfully kill Israeli civilians, therefore Israel shouldn't do anything in response. That's not how it works. That is not how it works. Iran did fire hundreds of missiles on Israel in one day on 2 separate occasions. Just because they didn't manage to kill anybody, because Israel is good at defending itself, that doesn't mean that you can't strike back. It doesn't matter how many people they successfully killed. They will get what they asked for.
They actually did successfully kill. They successfully killed Palestinian. They successfully killed a Palestinian. They didn't successfully kill an Israeli.
It's not funny, but yes, that's right. It's a kind of that's the irony there. Yeah.
It also caused, the same. Also, it caused a lot of celebration among the Palestinians until they started shooting each other and killed one.
Yeah. Thank God we've got such foolish enemies. Anyway, let's continue.
You can both
I
advise
can
it.
give you some
1,200
names.
people in Israel.
Iran in
October the
particular. I'm not
7th.
talking about Hamas.
By the way, can anyone see AP's camera? Because it's
No, my
kind of
camera just died for some reason. I don't know what happened.
Is it letting you
Mm.
come in and out?
Just continue. I'll try to.
Oh, we lost them. Okay.
Mhm.
Let's but no, I've had atheists speaking to me on the phone and saying they don't believe in God, but how else can you explain the hundreds of missiles that are regularly fired at Israel and not killing one person? This was the largest ballistic missile attack in history, and not one dead Jew. Thank God. Anyway, let's continue and hope that.
I mean, it's killed 5 of their own guys.
Yeah.
Hamas. We've spoken about Hamas at length.
But
We're talking
I
about
can
Iran
give
now.
Do
you
it
some
through their
We're
specific
talking about Iran. It's
names.
old news. You're talking
Right.
about
Let's let
Hamas.
Alan respond.
Yes, go ahead. Who did they successfully target?
Well, let
That's my
me
question.
respond.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The Iranians have been found by an Argentine court to have been guilty of killing hundreds of Israeli and Jewish people in Buenos Aires. They killed Marines through Hezbollah. They were combatants, but the attack on the Israeli Cultural Center,
Where was
the
that?
attack on the Israeli embassy were attacks, according to the Argentinian judicial proceedings, attacks on Israel, entitling Israel to engage in response. Now, let me explain what proportionality means, because you're missing the point. Proportionality doesn't require that a country that's attack back in proportion. Proportionality only means that if you're going to attack a mixed target that has civilians and combatants, the ratio of civilians to combatants must be proportional to the military value of the target. And that's what Israel has been trying to do.
Pause. This is it feels so satisfying to hear him explain this so briefly, because there are lots of people out there who just don't want to understand it. That's precisely what it is. Its proportionality might sound to you like it's about numbers. It might sound to you like it's about ratio. Like, oh, you killed so many people that I'm allowed to kill this many people. That's not what it is at all. Nothing to do with that. In warfare, proportionality, as he just said, is simply about when you conduct a military operation, the amount of civilians who are endangered. Is it worth the necessity of the military action that you are undertaking, or are you putting civilians in unnecessary danger, and so on? That is what proportionality is about. Has nothing to do with numbers. And I'm so happy that Alan Dershowitz finally sits here and clarifies it for everyone. So I hope that Piers Morgan gets it right from here on. Unfortunately, one person sitting here, Mohammed Hijab, will not understand it, because I listened to this yesterday, and he will get it wrong immediately in just a minute.
So I'm quite looking forward to that, and looking forward to see if Dershowitz pulls them up on it.
But Iran has killed thousands and thousands of Israeli and Jewish civilians over the years. So to defend somehow
So what ratio is
Iran and
acceptable?
saying
What ratio is
that
acceptable?
they were innocent,
What kind
even
of
See, what ratio is acceptable? He didn't get it.
Yeah. And this is what the reality is that, and this is the weird thing about this talking point, is even if you do go in for the whole ratio, which Hijab clearly does, the ratio is incredibly low. Like, in 1 year of fighting in the Congo, you had 1 million people killed. In Ethiopia, I think it was 250,000 people killed in 2021. In a year of fighting in Gaza, if you take Hamas's inflated numbers, and I've been through the numbers, they've got dodgy IDs in there, they've fabrications, it's like their numbers. I've got multiple videos
They also include the people who were killed by Hamas.
Yeah, they are not only that, they included in the first list, they included people who were killed in the 2014 war. It's like the list is a bit of a joke, but even if you take their list, you're still talking a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 civilian to militant ratio. When you compare that to Ethiopia, 250,000 civilians largely killed in 1 year. No one's talking about proportionality or anything. It doesn't even register. They're not even talking about this conflict.
Yeah, there is one authoritative voice here, John Spencer from the West. What was it? West Point. Yeah, he's at West Point. He has written articles on this. He is an expert on urban warfare, and he has written articles about it. One of which got a lot of attention from from Netanyahu himself, which pointed out that that in terms of urban warfare and abiding by the rules of urban warfare, Israel is doing an outstanding job and abiding by all the rules, and also going further and going beyond, and doing better than most. I think he said that Israel has been abiding more closely by international law of urban warfare than any other state in urban warfare history.
Yeah, and truthfully, I do get why people get confused and fall into the traps that they do. When you look at the pictures that come out of Gaza, they're not nice. Like, these are real people, these are real homes that have been destroyed. But the reason those homes have been destroyed is not because Israel is some genocidal state like they try to portray. It's because Hamas launched a war. And in war, people die. And if you bring that war to a densely populated civilian area, there are going to be casualties. There is going to be the destruction of buildings, particularly if you're booby trapping those buildings and building tunnels in those buildings. And so I can understand why someone sitting from the comfort of the West looks at a picture coming out of Gaza and then looks at a picture of Tel Aviv and sees people going about their business and just comes up with this wrong conclusion. So I do get the even say that, but when you're getting things explained to you by someone like Dershowitz, perhaps listen. Instead of just screaming boy, 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 good boy at them, listen to what they're saying. You might actually learn something as a scholar philosopher.
Yeah.
You might learn something.
Even the
Ratio, in your
people who
understanding,
were
is acceptable.
killed, even the
What
people who
ratio
were
is acceptable?
killed
You've
in
spoken
the
for some length
embassy
now. What ratio
were
is acceptable?
combatants who were legitimately.
You can kind of see why Hijab went the angle he did. He spent the first 20 minutes of the debate going for ad hominems, because the minute they get to the subject of the debate, he's drowning.
Yeah.
He is drowning.
He's clueless.
Can you hear me or not?
If you want to talk ratio, like, yeah, if you want to talk ratio, according to B'Tselem, which is not a very pro-Israeli source, the ratio in Gaza, at least all the previous war that go since the 2000 up until October 7, the ratio between civilians to combatant in Gaza was less than 1.3 civilian per combatant. So is this acceptable ratio or not?
Actually, I'm going to take this as an opportunity, Adam, to shout out one of your tweets, which are threads I followed for a long time. I actually started doing a video on it, and then the war broke out, and I wasted months on it. But Adam meticulously went through all of the casualties up until the war in Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, in Israel, pointing out how many of those Palestinian casualties were actually militants. You can find that on X or Twitter. I don't know what you guys call it now, but Adin Haken 1, and you'll find the thread there. It's a phenomenal archive, which showed that like 80 to 90% of those that are killed were engaged in violent actions against Israel or were members of terror organizations.
Yeah, like how I categorize them. I categorize them to 3 categories. Like, one is militant, like it's someone who is a clear combatant with military gears, terror affiliation, indeed the terrorist attacks. The second category is rioter, which is someone who is affiliated with terror group, but was more like he did violent protests, like for Molotov cocktails, stones or something. And the third category is bystanders, like the one who is usually there's not enough information about them, so it can be assumed just bystanders, or basically, or they would just die in crossfires and all that. So usually the ratio is usually 70% are militant, 20% are rioters, and maybe 10%, 5 to 10% are bystanders. This usually, according to what I found in 2022, 2023, and so far this year. This usually the
as
ratio that I found. Like
combatants,
I use like I used to gather information for Palestinian sources like Telegram, Facebook, and all that, and also if there is video footage that was published by Israel or something about the incidents. Like there was recently there was elderly Palestinians who were claimed was non-violent activist, but I saw that it was now trending. Like of a non-violent activist who was elderly who just confronted the idea of soldiers non-violently. Like I saw posters that he published that he himself affiliated with Hamas and called for the death of all Zionists. And yeah, I still don't have enough information to know what happened to him, but I already know what his affiliation is.
It's an acceptable ratio for you.
So Iran has no right of self-defense against that. Israel was completely entitled to kill.
Let me answer what you just said.
Israel was entitled to kill any combatant that was hiding in an embassy building.
Hold on. You've just conflated two things. You've spoken about the Argentinian case, which there is not actual an independent international investigation on.
Sorry. Argentina is pretty international. That's an Argentinian court, not an Israeli court.
Number one. And then you've spoken about, we speak about first of all, April. Was that a response to Argentina? It was not a response to Argentina. When on the 1st of April, they bombed the Iranian embassy in Syria, they did not do so. They said that is a military base and that we're attacking. But we all know that in this country, for example, every single embassy has military attaches. They have military attaches. So if you go to the US embassy here in London, they have armed officers. Does that make it a viable target? Does it make the US embassy a viable target? The Russian embassy a viable target? This is clearly against the UN convention.
Potentially, if the UK was at war with one of those nations, then it would make it a legitimate target if you got a military presence there. But the embassy wasn't hit. It was.
It's against the Vienna Convention. You cannot attack. You cannot attack an embassy of another nation in another sovereign land. You cannot do that. And
so let me respond.
That's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. As said, it was not the embassy, the main embassy itself. It was the attached consular building that was struck. It was struck inside a country that has actively participated in fighting against you directly and by sending proxies to you, namely Syria. Secondly, it was against an embassy building or embassy complex building that housed terrorists and officials responsible for a nation that attacked you and for terrorist organizations that have been at war with you forever. There is nothing illegitimate about this at all. And it's not comparable to what he's saying.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Syria still officially at war with Israel?
Technically, like there is, with the Syrian government, at least on paper, there is a ceasefire with the government, but not with the militia.
And that's why you're on the stream, Martin, to correct me.
Respond to that.
Let me
respond to that. Let me respond.
It's been
it was not an embassy. It was an ancillary building being used as a military center to plan attacks against Israel. They used the pretext of it being a building.
What's the evidence
somehow
for
that the embassy's still standing? Is this the evidence?
attached.
And you can look at the casualties list.
Yeah, the casualties are from IRGC, Hezbollah, and other militants inside the building that was struck. This is evidence that it was a military center, and the evidence that it was not the embassy building is that the embassy building is standing.
I mean,
So simple.
not a single embassy worker was harmed.
The evidence
To
for
an
that,
embassy. The evidence is very clear.
which is
And be happy to have them bring a lawsuit
what's the
and
evidence?
see if it
Bring
can
the
be
evidence.
resolved in a court of law. But Israel was entitled to regard who was killed. The people who were killed were military people who were planning attacks on
No,
Israel.
that's not true. There were
Using an
civilians that were
annex
also
to a
killed. There were
building to
civilians that
do
were
it.
also killed.
Look what he just said. Civilians also killed. There were civilians who were also killed.
Like,
It's
not true.
one thing-
Civilians were also
Yeah,
killed. Like,
it's one thing to say civilians were killed only. It's another thing to say, yes, correct. It was militants who were killed, but civilians also died. What an idiot, man! What an absolute idiot. Yes, civilians died. There were 2 civilians who also died in the attack. Out of 14 fatalities, 2 were civilians. Unfortunately, used by your own side in their military center. The majority of them were Iranian officials, Hezbollah officials, and militants.
Well, this is the absurdity of this conflict. It was the same with the pager attack. The pager attack was one of the most precise military strikes in the history of war, to take out, to neutralize 2,000 to 3,000 militants only harm a small number of civilians.
this is the exact casualties of the attacks. 16 kills, 7 of them were Islamic Revolutionary Guard soldiers, 5 were Iran-backed militiamen, 1 Hezbollah fighter, 1 Iranian advisor, 2 civilians. Those are the casualties.
But there were 2 civilians, so it obviously wasn't a military building. I mean, it clearly wasn't being used by military personnel. It was just a coincidence that those militants happened to be in that civilian domain.
Like, they always give the impression that Israel just luckily, Israel targeting civilians, but just so lucky also killed this militant all in the way.
It's phenomenal. Israel this is one of the most. It's so frustrating because Israel has been trying to kill civilians, but it just keeps on killing Hezbollah. They've accidentally, by coincidence, by chance, managed to take out safety, managed to take out Nasrallah, managed to take out Hania. They keep on trying to get civilians, and these militants keep getting in the way. Astaghfirullah.
Did that justify 3,000 rockets being sent into Israel?
Hold on. Let me respond.
180 ballistic missiles being sent into Israel?
Have
No,
you
of
made your
course
point?
not.
Okay. The response is as follows. First of all, 16 people were killed officially, and of them, there were 2 civilians that were killed. So what you're saying is only military targets is flatly false, squarely false, barefaced lie. You're a liar, as you were a liar when you were.
He never said that, and that doesn't have to be the issue. There is no law internationally or anywhere that says in a military strike you are only allowed to kill military. It is a normal and sad part of war that civilians will also be killed in the process, unfortunately, especially if you have civilians mixed with you together at military targets. And he even says 16, 2 out of 16 were civilians. I'm pretty sure it was actually 14, but 2 out of 16 were civilians. That's an incredibly good ratio.
Wikipedia says 16.
Oh, really? Okay, I thought
Wikipedia says 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Defending Epstein. That's number 1. Number 2 is when you say that, okay, that was a response. When Iran...
He had to go back to Epstein because he knows he's losing. So he has to go back to the ad hominem. We're probably we're a few breaths away from good boy, you boy.
Then on the 14th of April responded with missiles. Once again, how many casualties were there? How many casualties were there? 0. Just like there were 0 casualties when they responded recently in October. Not one person died except for 1 Palestinian, ironically enough, that was apparently killed in the October one. But in the April one, no one died.
And who killed him? Who killed them? Who caused their death? This is actually what's wrong with the whole world right now. People are understandably outraged because lots of
I
people
mean,
are dying in Gaza. However, here is the issue. In Gaza, people are dying because Gaza has a government, is governed by a terrorist organization that doesn't care about protecting them, that on the contrary counts on the fact that civilians will die because they want to use that as propaganda. On the other hand, in Israel, people are not dying in masses, not because the other side is not trying, but because Israel is doing their best, because Israel cares about life to protect them, which is why in Israel, with the means that you have, I have been to Israel recently. I was impressed with how many shelters you have everywhere outside to hide, bomb shelters. You have
Yeah.
new homes are required to build safe rooms and so on. This is what Israel does with its resources, whereas Hamas, with its resources that it gets for free without doing anything, does not do anything for civilians, but builds a huge underground tunnel system and then fights Israel and hides among civilians to then cause their deaths as well. In fact, there was an interview where Hamas
mean,
speaker was asked about why they don't spend any money on building shelter for the civilian population, and he said it's not their responsibility.
That was the job of United Relief Work Agency.
yeah,
He said it was
yeah.
the United Nations job to do that.
Yeah.
It also
just-
seems to be
I
their
just
job
came
to employ
across-
Hamas as well. It
Yeah.
also seems to be UNRWA's job to
Yeah.
employ Hamas. It's they've got many
Yeah.
responsibilities.
I just came across an investigation that was made by a Syrian NGO, like the Syria HR. Syria HR claimed that between October 7 up until the Iranian embassy attacks, like basically on Israeli airstrikes against military targets across Syria, 140 people were killed. You know how many of them were civilians, according to that Syrian investigation? 12. 12 people were civilians, out of 140.
Why were they
Like
civilians?
the rest, we even list them like 21 Iranian members of the Iranian members, 20 members of Hezbollah, 12 Iraqi personnel, 21 Iranian-backed militia Syrians, and 38 regime soldiers. Only 12 civilians.
Well, if there were 12 civilians, that means all of the other ones were also innocent by Mohammed Hijab's logic.
Yeah.
It was precise strikes at military bases. Number two, you speak about this being a
Yes.
base. As I say now, if you look
BS, and we already know
Yeah,
this. No
I
need to
mean,
get into it.
a Bedouin girl was wounded in that. Like, this is the precise attack.
Collins Dictionary right now, there's two aspects of what is a military base, vernacularly speaking. Number one is that there has to be weapons in that place, and number two, that there has to be training of soldiers. This
Sorry, did he just use a dictionary definition to find military base?
This guy goes against an international lawyer who has represented nations in front of international law and has represented presidents and so on, and is actually saying, you don't know what you're talking about. My dictionary definition here disagrees with you. I'm not sure if anybody wants to inform Mohammed Hijab on this, but a dictionary definition is usually not sufficient for the terminology in different fields. A dictionary definition might give you a basic idea of what a military center is, what Alan Dershowitz said, but it's not going to give you the sufficient idea. You are discussing this with a freaking lawyer, you idiot.
this is usually understood as what is a
That's
military base.
just made up. Those are made up stories. There's no truth
What's
to
made
that
up?
at all.
What's made up? Which part
There's
of it is
no
made
truth
up?
to that.
Let him respond.
I haven't finished my point. I haven't finished my point
that
yet,
you
though.
need
You just made a
weapons.
statement.
No, no,
He's
let me-
saying
The
it's
fact that you
wrong.
need
No, let me
weapons
finish-
for
let me
it to be
finish
a
what I'm saying. Let me
military
finish what I'm
base,
saying, and
that's
then you
just
can-
made up. You don't need weapons
Mohammed
to have a
Hijab just tend to accuse someone and then Mohammed Hijab can
military base.
Oh, I get it.
say, oh, you haven't finished my point. Like, you didn't let them to answer the question that you're asking. Like, Mohammed Hijab keep doing it, but he keep asking loaded questions, but then he get complain. But then he complain that he get interrupted when they answer him. Like, I haven't finished my point.
Base. It could be a
okay.
command center
Hold on,
where
hold
they're
on,
planning
hold on.
attacks.
Let
So
me finish.
That's just made up.
Let me finish. if we
The more
take
you say,
this-
the happier I am.
Okay.
And that's just a subtle smirk on his face when he delivered that as well.
That was brilliant. That was beautiful.
What I'm saying to you is that if you look at almost every Western government embassy in the West and outside of the West, they have military attaches. You can fact check this. You can go online. You will see in the US embassy, in the French embassy, in the British embassy, military guards, people there that have their own weapons and guns. So according to you, that would be a military base. So are they then legitimate
what
targets?
happened in this
Are they
case
then
was they
Can
used
we
an
then
annex of a
contravene-
building
Can we then
as a
contravene the
military
Vienna
base.
agreements? Can we then conventions? Can we
you
then?
don't know what
can
you're
we
talking
then,
about. You have
Okay,
no
hold on.
knowledge of international law
hold on.
or diplomacy
Wait.
law, the law of
You
war.
haven't got
so
one
please.
peer-reviewed. You don't have one peer-reviewed work on international law. And Jimmy Carter, the former.
Oh, that's amazing. He's going to start asking for his credentials. You don't have one bit. He's a professor of law at Harvard who consults and advises governments.
He actually went to the professor, the lawyer, the advisor of governments of international law, and said to him, "Where are your credentials?" While he himself is just some idiot.
U.S. president said, "You have no knowledge of Palestine. Don't speak to me about Palestine and issues." Jimmy Carter,
Well,
a former president of the United
50
States, as you acknowledge, you've written it in your book. He says that you have no knowledge of the Palestine issue. Jimmy Carter said that. Don't speak to me
Well,
like
you
that.
want to hear something?
Yeah,
It
the only
wasn't
thing you
my
have-
What's amazing is Jimmy Carter's actually writing about Dershowitz. He's not writing about Mojab. Like you are you're a speaker's corner influencer. It's like
I mean, Jimmy Carter is not really a good authority on the Middle East issue in almost every context.
yeah, you got one or two things wrong, to say the least.
knowledge
In
about
fact,
is where
it
the
was in
doors
the
and the
back-
rooms and the
It
masseuses
was in
are.
the back
and-
cover.
and-
It was the
and
back
Epstein's
cover of
house.
my book.
Sake.
I've
That's what
written.
you have knowledge of.
I've written 13 books.
Did you touch
I've
Virginia?
written 13
Did you touch
books
her?
on Israel.
Did you touch Virginia?
Some of which
Did
have
you
been,
touch her? Did you touch that woman?
Never heard of her. Never met her. Never met her.
Don't lie.
Never. She.
Don't lie to
she
me.
just-
Did you touch that woman or not?
Don't lie to
I'm
me.
telling you, I never met her, and she acknowledged
Did you
in
touch that
writing,
woman?
under oath,
Did you
that she
sexually
may
assault
have
her?
You have no
confused
knowledge
me
of
with
this case,
someone
do you?
else.
Well, you wouldn't be
I'm
saying
asking you
that.
more questions.
You're
Okay,
repeating
so-
How- why are you
serious
defending him?
information.
Has he got leverage
Because he
over it?
won a case. It was proven to be lies.
I'm asking him a
Why are
question.
you doing this?
I'm asking him a question.
This
I'm
is not
asking him a
about
question.
Israel.
This is
You're
the
trying to be a
credibility of
clever
this
dick, but all
individual.
you're doing is inviting a lawsuit from Anna, which you will get.
I'm ready for it.
You are?
Yeah,
Really?
I've got 4 defamation
Good.
cases, all of which
Good.
are your friend Douglas Murray. I'm taking him.
Look, so Alan Dershowitz was accused by a woman who later dropped the lawsuit, and it turned out that the evidence was insufficient or did not support the claim at all. This is a closed case. Happened long time ago, just after now accusing him of being a pervert and having engaged in all kinds of different things, and after Alan Dershowitz said, you have just committed a defamation, this is there is legal basis, we will sue you. He is further going on and using publicly more garbage stuff to defame his opponent here, Alan Dershowitz, who could, if he's going to sue him, add this to the case, because all this does is just discredit him and give people the false idea that he is indeed a sexual predator or a pervert or whatever it is. This guy is such an idiot, and he descended into this once again after failing to actually keep up with the discussion on the Israel-Arab conflict.
But yeah, no, and that's exactly it. He was losing the debate.
Yeah.
He was badly losing, so he reverts back to what he thought he was winning with before, forgetting that he'd already been threatened with a legal suit. This is incredible.
Him to court.
Well, good luck with
And-
taking on Alan on this, is all I would
I'm
say.
ready for him. Oh, you love him, don't you?
No, he's just one case.
I just wonder what he has.
defending himself.
I just wonder what leverage he has. Does he have any leverage on you?
God, this is pathetic, man.
I don't know why'd you keep defending
He's
him.
now
you
accusing
haven't
me
been
of
like this before we
supporting
go on the show. Why are you
Piers
doing it
He's
now?
Morgan,
a monster.
right?
This man is a monster.
Well, why debate then?
because I don't mind debating monsters, just like you don't mind debating monsters. We have that in common.
Do you want to finish the debate about the bigger picture or not?
I'm speaking about it. You guys are the ones rattled. I'm not rattled.
No one's rattled. We just think it's pathetic.
You're both rattled.
We think it's pathetic because you don't understand what you're talking about.
Really? That's just an assertion, really, isn't it?
No, you're just trying to get your clicks on X, and that's fine.
Oh, is that what you do? Is anything wrong with that?
No, you know what? Try and debate the issue.
You always brag about it, my
Try
friend.
and debate
That is the only thing I agree with Mojab in this debate. That is what Piers is about. That's why Mohammed Hijab is sitting in that seat debating the preeminent professor, is because he's also about those clicks. So I'll concede that 1 point to Mojab. He did get that right.
Yeah. But it's quite obvious that Mohammed Hijab agreed to this not because he actually wants to talk about the issue, but because he wants to, again, play his outrageous character and humiliate an 86-year-old man, and then be praised by his loyal followers. That's it.
Brag about it myself. We've got 1 million views, 2 million views. You talk about it all the time.
Alan, let me ask you something, which is about what Israel is doing. At the heart of it, if you take the belief that Iran is the main target here, a lot of Israelis believe that Iran is really rattled and that Israel has a genuine opportunity to topple this regime. Do you think that is a likely eventuality? Is it a thing that Israel should be pushing to do?
What is he laughing at?
I think if Israel has the military capacity to destroy Iran's nuclear abilities to create a nuclear arsenal and can do it with minimum civilian casualties, the way it did it in Iraq and the way it did it in Syria, it ought to do that. But if it risks a wider war, then obviously it has to take into account other considerations and the opinions of the United States. So it's largely a military question. Israel certainly has the right to destroy Iran's nuclear capacity. Rafsanjani, the former president of Iran, said if Iran developed nuclear weapons, they would use them against Israel, kill 3 million Israelis. Israel's a one-bomb state. That would be the end of Israel. And even if Israel retaliated and killed 10 million Muslims in Tehran, the trade-off would be worth it. No country should ever accept that kind of a threat. The United States wouldn't. They didn't in the Cuban Missile Crisis, and Israel shouldn't as well. But it's a military decision, and I'm not competent to resolve whether Israel has the capacity.
Look at that humility compared to Mohammed Hijab.
Yeah.
You're talking an incredibly qualified legal professor who advises governments on Middle Eastern policy. And he's saying, I'm not qualified. And then Mohammed Hijab pulls out his dictionary and says, aha, but I am. Look, this is what the Collins Dictionary says.
Look the Urban Dictionary.
Alan Dershowitz wrote one of the one of the best books in terms of defending Israel against allegations on a basic level without getting into lengthy texts. He wrote the whole thing, Case for Israel, where he addresses accusation after accusation by laying out the claim in the best way possible and then responding to it and presenting the evidence. This is the guy, and he has dealt with this kind of stuff for decades now. And Mohammed Hijab is an idiot from Speaker's Corner.
It was actually that book. I come from a Marxist background. I was pro-Palestinian back in the day. And it was actually Dershowitz's book that opened my eyes to I was going to say the other side, as that's now my side, but it was Dershowitz that opened my eyes to the reality of the conflict.
I didn't know that about you. That's
Oh no! I was like Marx and Engels on my cornflakes in the morning. I was like hardcore.
Wow.
To destroy Iran's nuclear ability without too many civilian casualties.
Okay, Mohammed, do you
That's
think
a military question.
Mohammed, do you think Hezbollah are terrorists or freedom fighters?
I have an antithetical view to Hezbollah, and that's been well documented.
Oh, did you hear that? Hijab hates Hezbollah because they kill Sunnis in Syria. Yes. He hates Hezbollah. I'm going to go back and see what he actually says here. This is going to be interesting because this is a loaded question. He'll get slaughtered by some of his jihadi boys, depending how he answers this question.
Military question.
Mohammed, do you think Hezbollah are terrorists or freedom fighters?
I have an antithetical view to Hezbollah, and that's been well documented in the record. However,
What's your view? I don't know.
Well, I tell you one thing. I'm not going to be baited into a sectarian debate here.
Asking if you comment about Hezbollah.
Sure, I don't necessarily. I have an antithetical view to Hezbollah. However, on this case, what I mean by that is that I don't necessarily support them in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
How do you
categorize them?
I categorize Hezbollah in their response to Israel as justified in that response.
And in the response for Assad in Syria,
clearly,
against fellow Arabs?
Yeah, well, you and I both know that I have an antithetical view. I don't think that they were on the right side of history then. I do think they were acting in
so they were terrorists.
Hezbollah, good when they're killing Jews. Hezbollah, bad when they're killing Sunni. This guy's there. Oh.
Well, I mean, it depends on how. I think the word terrorism is a social construct.
What were they when they fought for Assad?
Oppressive, and that's on the record. There's no doubt about it. You can call whatever you want, but
they were all the things that you would say Israel is.
When they were doing the thing with Bashar al-Assad, that is of course my view.
But they're only that thing when they're doing that. When they're attacking Israel, that's fine.
When they attacked Israel,
when they're attacking Arabs on behalf of Bashar al-Assad.
No, but that shows consistency.
Oh, Piers, it's not Arabs. It's not Arabs. It's not the Rafida. It's the Sunnis. Yeah. It's the Ummah.
Oh, hang on.
Doesn't that show consistency?
No.
Why not?
It doesn't show consistency.
It shows consistency.
The inconsistency is that you think that was bad, but when they're attacking Israel, that's fine.
Let's respond. On the 8th of October, you mentioned many times before in your interviews that they attacked Israel.
Yes.
They attacked Israel, right?
They did.
That's not true. They attacked the Sheba Farms, which is occupied territory.
Which Israel has claimed as its own since 1967.
Wait a minute.
Which Israel
occupied territory.
Which Israel has claimed as its own.
See, this shows your lack of knowledge on the matter. It does.
Well, part of what I just said is not true. They've claimed it as their own since 1967.
Wait, hold on.
Watch out, Piers. He's going to bring out his dictionary.
Actually, I have a dictionary here. It says here in Merriam-Webster. Oh, that's
this is occupied.
Hezbollah has been firing since October 8th. Whether you claim that it is occupied territory or not is entirely besides the point. They have been firing since October 8th and have ever since expanded their attacks more and more and more and more inside Israel's territory upon Israel's civilian population, and they have explicitly said that they will continue firing and will not allow the settlers to get back to the northern part of Israel.
Also, Hijab considers Tel Aviv to be occupied territory.
Yeah.
I mean, he's told me that many times.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
Occupied territory.
I try to be sure.
Sorry, go on, Adin.
It was he lied. Like it was. He showed. Hezbollah didn't only showed on October 8th only on Sabah farm. He also showed at Har Dov.
According to the UN, according to the US, it's occupied territory.
I just said Israel have claimed it.
So what? So they can claim. I can claim what I want. ISIS have made many claims.
So given Israel,
whatever Israel claims is true.
Like,
is that what we are meant to believe here?
Go on.
I can explain what happened on October 8th. What happened is that Hezbollah on October 8th basically fired the missiles and shells towards Sabah farm and Har Dov. Israel in response shot on a tent that Hezbollah built inside Israeli territory. This is what was responsible. They shot a tent, Hezbollah tent that was inside Israeli territory.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's insane. How did they construct the tent?
Yeah, I mean, there was a case that basically the tent was basically built without noticing inside Israeli territory. It was considered but
I wish you had a better connection.
the idea didn't want to trigger anything, so he didn't respond to the tent building. Only after Hezbollah shot the fire that then they attacked that tent that was inside their territory.
So how did they
the response like?
How did they construct a tent? I don't know this. I haven't read this. I haven't read this. How did they construct a tent in Israeli territory?
like there is a buffer zone that wasn't really defined, but that Hezbollah used exploit to further and further slowly advance the buffer zone. And then suddenly Israel discovered that they invaded their own territory with a tent. And then basically for months they didn't know what to do about it because they didn't want to trigger anything. And then, by the way, after Israel basically caused Hezbollah to evacuate the tent, when Hezbollah sent a militia, of like Islamic Jihad militia, they sent them to invade inside Israel, and then that militia killed an Israeli soldier. This is basically what
Shots
happened
fired
that day. This
beyond
is how
the
he said, this is basically
Sheba farms.
Now, let me explain.
Hezbollah
The
has
Sheba
fired into
farms were the-
Israeli cities.
Hold on.
Israel has
Dershowitz.
they
Dershowitz,
have
I haven't
fired
finished
into
yet.
Haifa.
Dershowitz, I haven't finished yet. On the 8th of, you talked about the 8th of October. When they fired on the 8th of October, they fired, and you can go ahead and bring evidence that they fired anywhere else other than the Sheba farms. They fired on the Sheba farms. After that, there was response from Israel. And then after that, because there was response of Israel into Lebanon, then Hezbollah attacked the northern part of Israel. This is what happened. And that is justified according to international law. So on this issue, you will not find differences between Sunnis and Shias. You'll not find differences in us. We are all united in the hatred of the Zionist entity.
All right, Alan, your response
Did
to
you
that.
hear that? Did you hear that? Did
Yep.
you hear that? Very, very clearly. He didn't say the Zionist, and he didn't say the occupation. He didn't say this project or that project. He didn't specify an aspect. He said the Zionist entity, and this is not even everything that people like him actually stand for. If you go further into this discussion with him, especially in a language that is not English, especially if you are part of his community, he will further explain what he actually means. So when he says Zionist entity, he's talking about Israel itself. They are all unanimous, according to him. This is not something that I'm saying. According to him, Muslims are unanimous and they are together in their hatred for Israel, for the existence of Israel itself, for the existence of the state of Israel, for the Jewish state. This is what Zionism is. This is what the Zionist entity is. The sole existence of this state, the sole existence of Jewish sovereignty in the land. And say whatever you want about it. The Muslim side or the Arab side, the Palestinian side, whatever you want to call them, they have no say in whether this state may exist or not. They had no say when this modern state came into existence. They had no control over the territory. They did not own the land that Israel was formed out of. They tried to destroy it. Israel won the war against them, kicked their butts, and expanded territory and made sure that it is as safe and secure as possible. You have to deal with the consequences, but they don't want to deal with the consequences because they don't like it, because it goes against their entire system of being unity, being one against the Jews. That is it. That is it. And this is something that I think Israelis and Jews in general should be aware of and should notice. That it's a very rough, it's a very hard, very harsh truth, but there is just one issue here that is the problem. It doesn't matter what Israel does. It doesn't matter what you do as Jews. It doesn't matter what anybody does. The result will always be the same. They will always hate you. They will always be against you. There will always be the global, the universal hatred among them against you. Even if tomorrow the Zionists, the Jews, decided to suddenly what are people saying? My volume is low. It's not low. What are you talking about? Even if tomorrow the Israelis decided to give everything that they have built to the so-called Palestinian population, everything that you have built from zero, including everything in Tel Aviv and everywhere else, places that the Arab side never had any control over. Even if you gave everything as it is to them and left somewhere else, I don't know, to some abandoned island in the middle of an ocean, they would still hate you. they would still hate you. They would still blame you. They would still not consider this enough. This is the problem. There is no policy problem. There is no border problem. There is no demography problem. There is an ideological problem that is not because of you. It is because of them, because of the way they think and they believe.
And I think the word to that, let's say there's 2 billion Muslims in the world. People give 1.5, 2 billion, 1 billion. Let's say it's 2 billion for argument's sake. And let's say only half of them want to see the destruction of Israel. Let's say of those nation states that surround it, only 6 to 7 of them have actually attacked in a meaningful way Israel. Israel, a nation of 7 million Jews who are supposed to be paying the jizya until they're sagirun. They're supposed to be under the boot. They're supposed to be a second-class citizen within the caliphate. Somehow, these 7 million Jews who in 1948 repelled 5 Arab armies when there were just 1 rifle for every 3 soldiers, somehow these Jews have continuously defeated you. To the extent where I made a meme the other day, but people will talk about Sparta. Apparently, 1 Spartan warrior was the equivalent of 10 Athenians. They were that 1 Jew from Bet Shemesh is the equivalent of 411 Muslim warriors. That's got to hurt those militant Islamists that these pesky 7 million Jews are able to repel wave after wave of invading Muslim armies. It hurts. It messes with their theology. We're supposed to be under them.
Exactly.
We're not supposed to be. Like we're supposed to be reading books in the Bet Midrash. We're not supposed to be like kicking their butts on the battlefield. It hurts. It really hurts them that we continuously repel their invasions.
Exactly.
And we'll continue to.
Exactly.
And
That's
the smarter Muslims are waking up to this. That's what the Abraham Accords are.
Yeah.
The Gulf states are like, actually, these Jews, they're not going anywhere. They actually we have enemies in common. They have trade in common. There's so much we can benefit from each other if we coexist. Our belief system isn't even too different. We have had many conversations, AP. Me and you differ slightly on the Islam thing. I believe in reaching out to the Gulf state Arabs, to the moderates, to actually building meaningful bridges. I don't want to pick a fight with 2 billion Muslims. I'd rather make friends with 1 billion and let the other billion catch up as the rest of the Middle East thrives. But the future is with those Muslim nations that recognize that Israel is here to stay and that continue to. I mean, Hijab are here. This is the best thing about this conversation. Hijab is cheerleading for Iran, while the Gulf states, the Sunni Muslims in the Gulf states, are cheerleading for Israel. They're opening their airspace to Israel. And Iran is threatening his Sunni brothers. Iran is threatening to drop missiles on the Gulf states, on Jordan, on the UAE, on any nation in the Middle East that opens its airspace to Israel. It's very, very interesting to see someone like Hijab defending and cheerleading for people he's supposed to despise.
Yeah, that is a good development. There's actually a recent poll which shows that when they ask countries in the Middle East, the Gulf countries especially, but even countries like Egypt and Jordan and the others, now the majority of Muslims in those countries say that that this conflict will not be solved through military means. There has to be a diplomatic solution to the conflict. To me, as a former Muslim, this is it's quite surprising and actually refreshing to see, because people don't necessarily have a very good attitude about Jews, and has nothing to do with Israel. They have always had that attitude. But to see this development because of the facts is good. Yeah.
I mean, we can also have that many of them believe that, it's because Israel has been backed by the United States. So if we diplomacy cause stop the United States to support Israel, then Israel will disappear.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, because I imagine we've seen most of what we need to, I'm going to actually open up to a few questions if you guys want to stick around. If you need to bail, that's also fine. But the chat's been going a little crazy. I saw lots of questions. The only one I remember was somebody saying, is a Christian, I think it was a Christian, that he couldn't support Israel because Israel doesn't recognize the Armenian genocide. I think Israel should absolutely recognize the Armenian genocide.
I agree.
To be clear, Israel doesn't deny the Armenian genocide. The Ministry of Culture does recognize the Armenian genocide. There are memorials and streets to commemorate the Armenian genocide across Israel. One thing that haven't been done is official vote about it. Like there was an official Knesset vote about the Armenian genocide.
Yeah.
Like I remember the president once recognized it publicly, the president. Like, yeah, it should be a vote, but we need to remember the concept of voting to recognize genocide is a relatively new thing. There was no such vote about the Holocaust. There was never a vote that each government did to recognize the Holocaust. So the idea that governments voting to recognize a historical event is something new that only started in the 90s, really.
Bibi himself,
So we need
Benjamin
to understand that
Netanyahu.
Israel is not.
Yeah, Bibi himself, he
in Israel, of course,
explicitly acknowledged the Armenian genocide. He posted about it on Twitter, including when he responded to Erdogan, for example. He said that Turkey has the history of the Armenian genocide and so on.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to go to the super first.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I'm going to go through supers.
I mean, Israel still, the main reason, you can say that the main reason is because its relations with Azerbaijan. Maybe it's afraid it will harm them. And Azerbaijan is important ally against Iran. So, so maybe it's fears of its own.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm going to go through the supers. I've never done this because I don't usually get supers, so apologies to everyone. Don't do many live streams. I do most of mine as pre-records. So okay. So first, I can't pull up your comments because I don't know how to do that via Riverside. So apologies. What I'm just going to do is read it out. So Dan Dave says Mo Hijab is a lunatic. If not for British passport, he would have met the pager treatment. 100% support to Israel from India. You fighting for humanity. Thank you. I don't want to say Mohammed Hijab page. Maybe deflated a little bit. Maybe if somebody would prick his suit, his inflatable suit, it would be useful because that man has an ego. But I don't want to see him lose his eyes or even worse, transition to a woman. But thank you, and thank you for supporting us from India. You've got no idea how much support we get from India, and it's incredibly touching because it can be quite lonely as a Jew sometimes. So Dan Dave again. I don't know if I can read this out. I'm going to start reading it and then I might stop. Muslims are the greatest advocates for secularism, multiculturalism, democracy, but only when they happen to be in a minority community. Okay, I can read that. It's okay. Thank you, Dan Dave.
Expecting questions.
Yeah, I've just got to read the super chats because people have paid for them, and so hopefully some will be questions, but they may just be statements. Honestly, Mohammed's concentration on sexual activity, this is from Hunting Shark, who I've actually met in real life. Honestly, Mohammed's concentration on sexual activity says more about him and Dawa than it says about the people he tries to insult. Also, all three of you do amazing work. Thank you, Hunting Shark.
Thank you.
What I'd also say, it's not just Mohammed. Like, read the Hadith. I think there's more Hadith on semen than any other subject. It's interesting. So next one would be from Viati Vistu. AP, as a German speaker, can you understand Yiddish? It's a question.
That's a very interesting question, actually. I sometimes listen to, I sometimes watch videos. I've recently got into researching and reading a whole book about the Rebbe, Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and also then started listening to videos, speeches of him, and was trying to understand what he says. and then I tried listening to others speak Yiddish, and it's very difficult because apparently Yiddish developed from a rather kind of street German with a Yiddish with a Jewish accent and a Hebrew touch, and I can make out a few words here and there, and sometimes understand almost full sentences, but it's really mixed.
Okay. So next one, why does Allah call Jews, and this is by Martin Hassan, why does Allah call Jews by the name of our homeland, Yehudi? Why are we Banu Israel, yet the Quran only says Yaqub? I don't have an answer to that, sorry, Martin. Maybe
Well,
AP does.
The Quran refers to Jews in different ways. It refers to them as the Yehud, the Had. It refers to them as Bani Israel, and people of the Scripture, among
Love
others. Yeah.
Okay, so next one is for AP, 7 shekels, thank you. 690 is the price of a mango in Yochananov, or a kilogram of mango. So AP, buy a new laptop, we'll fund it. I think she means fund.
I know. David has been saying that too. I just always find it very, very difficult to ask for something. That's why I'm not doing it.
Well, there's some Jewish backers in the chat that would bankroll it. It would add to the conspiracy theory about you being under the pay. This one's Israeli, so
I've been trying to tell my Mossad handler that I need a new laptop, but they say I need to work more. I'm not doing enough for them right now.
So Ezra's Rabbit says, that was Rachel S, by the way. Ezra's Rabbit says, does my screen deceive me? 3 Jews in agreement.
That's fun.
No, it doesn't. We are in agreement.
Yeah. We have to disagree on something. We have to find something to disagree on.
Don't let AP's wife know that he's Jewish, because that is AP's wife on Twitter your wife?
Yeah, she's on Twitter.
In real life, I thought so.
Yeah.
And she converted to Christianity, or is it reverted?
Yeah, she used to be she used to be a Christian and then was an atheist for forever. That's how I met her. But she recently, within the last months, actually converted back to Christianity and is now an Orthodox Christian.
Will she be okay knowing that you're a Jew? So you've just been outed, and
she has been trying to accuse me of abducting Christian children and drinking No, she's actually very interested. So while she's doing the whole Christianity thing, I have been studying Jewish stuff. This morning, I got the weekday Siddur, and I actually read some of the prayer to her, just because I wanted her to keep me at it while I'm doing that, because I wanted to figure it out, and she likes it. She's quite interested in it, and yeah.
I think Christians tend to be very interested in our liturgy.
I mean, AP, if you and your wife will have a kids, it will be very messed up. You don't know what it will be, an ex-Muslim, Jewish, atheist, Orthodox Christians.
But they'll know who pays for their lunches, the Mossad.
Mossad is paying for our family. Yeah, I want to correct that one thing. It's not 3 Jews, it's 2 Jews and 1 crypto Jew, by the way. Yeah.
But who's the crypto Jew?
That's the question.
Okay, next one is Aberesh TV. Shouldn't hijab say Hezbollah are kuffar? Yes, he shouldn't. He believes they are kuffar. And then at Stay True, same person, at Stay True, when were the Palestinians self-governing? Fair point, never. Arguably post-Oslo, we gave them a degree of self-governing, and they royally messed that up, and it devolved into war. Moo Joe said, hijab is philosophy intellectual. No wonder Islam is what at it is. Hijab is not an expert on Palestine. He worship a PDF file. His best friend is a sex traffickee. He is what he claimed Alan is, AP.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, that was a wave AP. There's a wave emoji. So you got one of your many fans. Martin Hassan has come out and sorry, go on.
I mean, he's really close to Andrew Tate. I'm not sure about the relationship.
I don't know how close he is. I know that when Tate first converted to Islam, Hijab was all over that, trying to get some of that social media clout. I don't know if he's still defending him, because a lot of the brothers have turned on Andrew Tate after he went to an Easter service in Romania, and then he declared himself the Lord, and some of them thought this wasn't very proper.
Yeah, he called himself God on
Muslim.
Twitter.
Very halal.
He said, "Bow down to your Lord," about himself. He then went with his brother to the Christian Orthodox to the Christian Easter
Such
service
humility.
and said we're praying to the Lord Jesus Christ, which is not always, you're not supposed to say that as a Muslim. That's literally blasphemy by Islamic standards. And then he also said that that the Bible is completely true. You're not supposed to say that as a Muslim. You're supposed to not believe at this point that the Bible is completely true, and so on. It's just, and then he of course runs a whole sex business and webcam girl business, and that's how he got famous. If you want to accuse people for, and call them perverts for associating with certain people, then Mohammed Hijab, he was sitting right next to Andrew Tate, the guy who built an entire empire of online pornography and webcam girls.
And then Martin Hassan says, Allah calls Jews children of Israel. Why? AP, I'll give that one to you.
Because Allah didn't really know what he was saying. It was here is the issue with Islam, and this is what I sometimes hear people say that Islam is kind of an offshoot of Judaism and Christianity, or a continuation, or part of the same family, or Abrahamic and all that. There's actually a difference between where Islam comes from and where, for example, Christianity comes from. The earliest Christians were Jews. They were Jewish people. They went to the synagogue. They attended synagogue for decades. Jesus himself was Jewish. His first followers were Jewish, and so on. They still read the Hebrew Bible, most of it. So that is a continuation out of a Jewish family line, of Jewish heritage. The same is not true with Islam. Islam came out of an Arab polytheistic environment, far away from Jewish heritage and Jewish culture, and Muhammad disliked his own pagan society and looked up to Jews and Christians and wanted to be like them. He first approached the Jews in Medina and tried to sell this idea to them that, hey, I'm a prophet and I was sent by the same God that you guys worship. And the Jews tested him and were like, we don't really believe you. You have no idea what you're talking about. So then he got mad at them and he was like, kill all the Jews. And then after that, after the Jews rejected him and started mocking him, he was like, okay, Jews are bad, but the Christians, those are the good guys. They're good. So he tried to approach the Christians with the same thing, and the Christians soon rejected him and said, you are talking a bunch of nonsense. And then he went, the Christians also bad, fight the Christians. So, but in that entire process of first trying to befriend the Jews and Christians, but then ending up being opposed to both of them, he tried to incorporate as many Jewish and Christian ideas as possible, like about the Bible stories, Jewish practices and ideas, and then Christian stories, Jesus and so on, but then got everything wrong. So this is why you will find things like the Quran calling them children of Israel and things like that, but then also being completely against them. You will also, by the way, find in the Quran that Allah promised the Jews that they will be in that promised land and they will come back to that land. So if you read the Quran, it seems like a very Zionist scripture, but the thing is, over time, it changes its attitude toward Jews, and in the end, it tells Muslims to fight the Jews and to subjugate them. And Muhammad is also reported as saying that the day of judgment will not come until you fight the Jews, and the Jews hide behind rocks and trees, but you will eventually kill all of them, and so on. It's really, really a big mess.
Okay, next one is from John Rambo. Why are Yazidi women taken as sex slaves and sold in Gaza? How are these women being rescued from these so-called freedom fighters? Hamas equals ISIS. They're being rescued by our brave boys who are going in and saving them. Thank God. Next super chat is from Hunting Shark. Joseph, odd question about Israel, but should the state teach Yiddish, Ladino, and other Judea diaspora languages to students as a form of preserving them? I don't think so. I think they should be preserved as languages, but not at a national level, because there's no utility to those languages. In the Haredi circles, Yiddish is preserved, so there's no issue of Yiddish dying out. All the Gemara shares will be in Yiddish. The top share definitely in Yiddish. The Hasidic community completely speaks Yiddish. So there's no risk of that. Other languages like Ladino will die out and will just be preserved academically. I think it would be an absolute waste of students' time for people who have no association with Ladino culture to learn that language at a national level. But they are beautiful languages. I love listening to Ladino music.
Same.
I got so much in common, fellow Jew. Next is a mutual friend of ours, and I actually genuinely really like this guy. I think you debated him the other day, Isa Kabir. And he's a really nice guy. And he's just wrote, this is a Muslim for the chat, this is a Muslim. Baruch Hashem, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. So I like that.
I think Isa Kabir actually has, I think on one of his parents' side, he has Jewish ancestors, where one side is Jewish and the other side is Muslim or something like that.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a similar situation. Father's Muslim, mother's Jewish, so both claim him. And he's also black, and so he's just like checking all of the boxes. Wow. So like the Nazis love him. He's like Muslim, Jewish, black. Okay. Sorry, go on, Nadine.
Epic crossover.
Yeah. Hezbollah, Party of God, utilizes a global drug smuggling network to fund their terrorist network. How do they justify this in Islam?
I mean, they also do prostitution network.
That's the thing. They just do things that are extreme measures that are required to fight their war. People don't ask too many questions about it, as long as they fight for the team.
Drug trade, sex trade, everything that need for resistance.
Isn't the Bekaa Valley where we're
the Zionist entity?
Isn't the Bekaa Valley, which is currently getting hit hard, which is a Hezbollah stronghold? Isn't that like a big? Is it either poppies or cannabis? I can't remember.
It's the entire northeast part of Lebanon.
Wow.
But basically bordering Syria.
Wow.
Like this area has been hit because it's been used it's mainly ammunition store for Hezbollah. Basically where they store their ammunition and also smuggling for Syria. Like basically there are three parts of Lebanon that have been used for Hezbollah for different reasons. There is south of Lebanon that been used to attack Israel for shooting rockets and all that. There is the Bekaa Valley that used to smuggle in weapons from Syria and storing them in case. And there is a Dahia in Beirut, but this is the command center where Hezbollah basically both commanding and also developing new weapons.
So when we're seeing those big plumes of smoke, just to be clear, that's not marijuana or opium. That's something else. And it's a very different definition to the fog of war than we're used to. It's not the Collins dictionary definition. Okay, so Spinoza says, AP, can you say why Allah calls Jews Beni Israel? Which is the same question over and over again.
Yeah, has been
And we
answered.
got wow. There's a lot of super chats.
Move on.
Didn't Allah? This is from Endangered Languages. Didn't Allah give Palestine to the Jews in the Quran? No, He did not give Palestine. He gave Israel. He never called it Palestine. There's Bani Israel, and they weren't in Palestine.
Yeah.
It doesn't use the term Palestine.
Palestine is not mentioned in the Quran, but yeah, if you're referring to the land that they later on called Palestine because the Romans decided to suppress Jewish identity and renamed it into Syria, Palestina. Yes, that place is promised to the Jews in the Quran.
And next one is from Humanistic Judaism. Allah confuses.
They use it
Oh, sorry, go on, Adin. Sorry.
like they just adopted the Byzantine, the Roman Christians basically made a lot of basically government issue. One of the regional places was called Junction Palestine. Basically, province Palestine was changed to Junction Palestine. It was changed to Arabic basically to Junction Palestine. Was used throughout the early Muslim period, but when it disappeared, it's faded away by the Crusades.
Yes.
So
it was
and
like
it was mainly used. It was mainly used by the Christian. What is interesting, it was mainly used by the Christian subject in the area, but for all Palestine.
So it was in the Roman Empire when they first took it. It was officially the province of Judea, so province of Judea. And then after the Bar Kokhba revolt in the 2nd century, it was changed from province of Judea into province of Syria, Palestina. Then when it got under Eastern Roman control, it was divided into Palestina 1, 2, 3. That region was still known as Palestina. When the Arab Muslims took it over, they called it Jund Palestine, based on the Roman use. But then later on, they abolished the entire official use of Palestine and started dividing it into different territories. The Ottoman Empire never officially used the word Palestine or Philistine. It was only reintroduced by the British when they came back. The British came back and they called it Mandate of Palestine, based on Roman use.
We need to remember that in the early Muslim period, like basically since the conquest in the 7th century up until the Crusades, the majority of the population throughout the entire period was Christians, was still Romanized Christians. The official language of the population was still Greek. It wasn't really Arabized or Islamized very well toward that period. It was only in the Mamluk period after the Crusades when you start to have mainly Arabic and Islamic culture. So it was basically natural that by all the government issues. But this is why as more Islam and Arabic culture become more and more dominant, then Palestine more and more faded away from being mentioned in the script in the
It's Palestine, free Palestine.
Okay, next super is from Humanistic Judaism. Allah confuses the father of Moses with the grandfather of Jesus. And then John Rambo asks, can Indians join the IDF? I believe there actually is a volunteering corps where you're not given a gun or anything like that, but you can assist with community type services. I've forgotten what the name of it is, but there is a way you can volunteer as a foreign national that isn't Jewish and assist with the efforts of the Jewish state. It's more like national service, I believe.
Mercenaries.
And that is the end of the super chats. I think we'll call that a day because we've done 2 hours and we didn't really get to any questions. It was more statements, 1 or 2 questions. But yeah, where can people find the 2 of you? If they want to, if they're like what they've heard and they want to ask you more questions about why.
You can go for me. I have like if it's for DM, like I recommend the Instagram because the DM is very more functional than on X, the DM. So you can go for Instagram. It's just adin.hiking. for Instagram, for DMs. But if it's just, general to see my content and general interaction, you can follow me on X.
And what's the handle?
For me, Adin Hiking one.
There you go.
Yeah.
AP, where can they find you?
Me, I have a very new platform. I don't do much online stuff, YouTube or anything. But you can find me. If you want to see or hear more from me, you can find me on X or Twitter. My handle is at Adin Haykin 1. So ADINHAYKIN 1. That's where you can find me.
Winston Churchill famously said, if anyone wants proof of the existence of God, look at the survival of the Jewish people. And I think that was a very true statement. But I'd say another statement, which is almost of as much weight, is AP's YouTube channel. How have you not been banned? It's like a community struck after community struck.
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, I just do it somehow. It's probably has to do with.
You've got leverage, don't you? You've got leverage.
What did you do? You got leverage.
Jeff, you met with Jerry Maxwell Epstein. You've been on the island.
Awesome, amazing. I really appreciate you, both of you, coming on today. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, apologies about the technical hiccups at the beginning.
Yeah, you should do it more.
It's new.
And then they say the Jews control the media. Look at that.
No, we really don't. We just control the banks.
Thanks for clarifying.
If the West Bank doesn't belong to Israel, why it's called a bank?
Thank you so much for
all right,
this.
good stuff, guys. Really
All right.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you just guys, if